of Ghana does not have a Bank of Ghana rate as we speak. So what is being tweeted is our indicative rates, our rates, transaction rates collected from commercial banks at the end of the previous day at 3 p.m., weighted average based on the transaction volumes, and then published for the benefit of the general public. The difference you see from the commercial bank is that when you go to your bank this morning, they would have published an indicative rate, but not a transaction rate. So you see 13 or 12, the bank is saying that as you come to my bank, you may get this rate. But depending on the type of transaction you have, you may even get 10 or 11. So you look at the indicative rate and you compare it with their previous day's transaction rate, you see a huge margin. But then the transactions take place, you weight it, and it's not different from what Bank of Ghana publishes. So when we go out there to deal with PMMC, we deal with them on the rate at which the commercial banks transact business. And that's the rate at which PMMC also buys. So
all right, so you heard the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Masolo Poku Afari, there answering questions from the Public Accounts Committee. He was engaging Sam Nate George on the gold for oil policy and what the role of Bank of Ghana has been. We'll look at all of that this morning. So this morning, my guests are Fuseni Issa, former MP for Okankwe North and former member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Nana Amoisi VII, Executive Director, the Institute of Energy Security, the Honorable Kweku Rickett-Hagan, Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, former Deputy Minister for Finance, former Deputy Minister for Trade, and a former Central Regional Minister, and Franklin Kujo, who is President of Imani Africa. These are my guests this morning. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program. All right, let me start off with you, Fuseni Issa, former MP, and your party is in government, so you obviously have more information than everybody else as far as this matter is concerned. For somebody listening for the first time, what is the Gold for Oil program, and what was it intended to achieve? Of course, this came up some time back where fuel prices at the pump was going up almost every time, and so this idea, which looked like a novelty at the time, was birthed. What is this program? What is its intended purpose?
Good morning, Selom, and good morning to my co-panelists, and good morning to the good people of Okankwe North. And you
don't greet the people of Ghana.
And I have two of you. I said it.
Okay, that's fine.
Good morning to your viewers. And I want to welcome City TV formally to Okankwe North Municipality. My constituency is part of this municipality.
So now everybody's buying into it. Success has many friends.
I mean, that's it.
We thought it was Okankwe Central. Now Okankwe North is coming in.
The constituency is Okankwe Central,
okay.
But the municipality is
the municipality. Okay,
yeah.
great. So in terms of constituency, you are a neighboring constituency.
I'm a neighboring constituency.
That's nice.
In terms of municipality,
it's your municipality.
It's my municipality.
Nice one.
Selom, gold for oil. So, let's look at what brought about this novelty. I mean, in 2022, this time last year, our budget for 2022 had been passed partially because there were policies that government had taken to Parliament as part of the revenue mobilization efforts of government for the year 2022 that were still outstanding. I'm referring to the e-levy. So it got us into trouble, giving our external partners not even having the confidence that the policies that government intended then to use to mobilize revenues domestically was going to be feasible. It led to the rating agencies beginning to downgrade us. Our access to the euro market, which had been an annual ritual, became very limited, so we couldn't go to the euro markets to transact like we had done in some previous years. It led to the shortage of forex in our system, but life still had to go on. So certain expenditure or line items we couldn't do anything about. As an economy, we spend, from what I glean, about $400 million a month on just our fuel requirements every month, and this goes into about $4.8 billion in a year. So in a year that we couldn't go transact the $3 billion euro market transaction That was also a very important source of forex for us. It became very trying. We saw a lot of our macroeconomic indicators going haywire, particularly when the downgrading started. And so it was important that the government became innovative to ensure that, unlike other countries, in fact, as we speak now, if you listen to word coming from a huge petroleum producing country like Nigeria, shortages on the streets and all of that, you'll be amazed that we have been able to keep.
But the Nigeria case is purely mismanagement.
It is mismanagement. Fortunately for us, we haven't gotten there.
We don't even have the oil, so we buy.
We buy the oil. Yes, so we have ensured that the product is available.
It's available. Good.
Unfortunately, we couldn't also allow the prices to go to the levels at which it was going. And traditionally, we have known that two very straight indicators of how much you pay at the pump prices, either the world market for crude or the exchange rate. So these two variables, we had to do something about it. Unfortunately, the external one, which is the world price, crude prices, it's not something that we could do impact. But what we could do about is the forex or exchange rates between the cedi and the dollar. It became important that we looked at what other people have done when it came to times like this. And it is not the first time any country is using one commodity in exchange for the other. We've seen the case of UK, Iran, oil for equipment, Venezuela has done similar things, oil for food, and things like that. So in this whole thing, we tried to see what we could use, the resource that was available to us that we could leverage on to ensure that we had constant flow of petroleum products. Obviously, it is not by default that at one time were called the Gold Coast. And we have mined gold for centuries. And if you look at the impact of gold on other countries or economies, let's take South Africa. I mean, Joburg was built basically on the back of the mines and mining activity in there. Today you go to Obuasi, it's still a struggle, and you wonder what we have done with our gold resources over the centuries. It was important that we could leverage on the commodity that we could have available. And so this whole thinking came, why can't we swap this for oil? Rather than go through the typical exchange thing where the BOG had to always look for the hard currency to be able to give this to the BDCs to be able to bring this product. It was important that we became innovative, and so we looked at this policy. The policy was intended to, one, reduce the pressure on our forex, how much forex we needed to spend every month, and if we were going to be able to take a chunk of the $400 million that we needed a month from the total forex that we needed to import whatever necessities we needed in this country. It was going to take a lot of pressure off the currency, because typically the price of forex is determined by demand and supply. And so if of the 400 we're even able to do 50%, it meant that we would not need to go looking for about $200 million every month to be able to fuel our industries and our vehicles around. So it was intended to take off that pressure of the currency. Secondly, we have noted that the price of forex was crucial. And so if this pressure was taken off, and so we didn't, the demand for forex came down, and the supply was even constant, it was not going to push the price up. And so it will reflect finally at the prices that we pay at the pump. And then also our macroeconomic stability, that was actually being of a challenge in the last year or so. So the policy, this was the policy intentions, basically to take the pressure of the cedi, stabilize the cedi, and finally reflect at the prices that we pay at the pump.
Okay. So
when this whole policy started, there were discussions, and I from where I sit, I know there were consultants involved in all of that were actually advising government on how to go. But it was obvious from what the deputy minister had said this week that is generated this whole thing. Even before I come to that, like we do with our energy sector, there are mixed and different sources of energy that we get. We get a hydro, we get thermal. Now we are getting some solar systems up north as well. So determining on the mix at every time, it has an impact on the price. Because hydro obviously is the cheapest. Thermal is more expensive than hydro. So depending on how much thermal you have in the mix at every point in time, it determines the ultimate price that I will have to pay from my home. Similar to this, the policy is just started. From what I gleaned, we got 40,000 metric tons last month in January. And given the system that we run, even from BOST has some tanks that are able to, or the capacity, the capacity at BOST is able to keep about 6 weeks full supply at any point in time. And BOST also has to treat this thing just like any other stock. It's FIFO, first in, first out. So at every point in time, the stock that comes, depending on its situation, when it was bought, the pricing, it will determine the price we pay at the pump. Hence, this bi-monthly price determination by the MPA. So this is what is happening, and this innovation. There was the discussion, and I have seen diagrams from when this whole policy was initiated that showed that look. There were two legs of this transaction at every point in time. The BOG was going to make money available to PMMC for PMMC to buy the gold. In fact, Bank of Ghana had even earlier initiated that, look, for us to build on our reserves, we have to revert to buying gold locally for the BOG to be able to support our currency at every point in time. We have moved on from there. But in particular for this policy, BOG will supply money, will give the PMMC some money to buy gold locally. And the truth is that over the years, at every point in time, we have realized that the amount of gold that leaves our shores relative to the amount of gold that arrives at other destinations, the Arab world and all of that, when we have to reconcile the amount of gold that actually leaves legally our ports and the amount of gold that actually arrives there, there's always been a disparity. Always been a disparity, and sometimes it's been to abnormal proportions. Why so? I don't know. So if this policy is going to help us to sanitize the whole process such that we are going to buy the gold locally in Ghana cedis, and we are not going to buy it at a discount. No, we are looking, these are tradable commodities. At every point in time, everybody knows what the world price for gold is. At every point in time, everybody knows what the world price for petroleum products are. So it is not a case of us saying that we were going to get a discount or something that was going to reflect. We were thinking about the currency, taking pressure off the currency, ensuring that the $400 million that we will require every month is hit down significantly so that we can look at other sectors of the economy. Fast forward. Initially, what I had even gleaned was that the first transaction was going to even happen down the line, way down in October or so. But given the exigencies of the time, things had to move much faster. So thankfully, they were the partners who were ready to work with us in these transactions were identified. And so quickly we had to take advantage of it to ensure that, look, the extent of suffering, the extent of price increases at the pump, which dovetailed into levels of inflation. I mean, look at our inflation levels in excess of 54%. And principally, if you look at food inflation, it's a very huge chunk of the movers of inflation. And given what we know, all the market women are telling us that it's more expensive to transport the food items from the producing areas to the consuming areas, and that is the principal push in food inflation. And so if we could do something about this, can you imagine how it would affect the macroeconomic stability that we have been yearning for? So this whole thing was built, and it was in two arms. Either your other partner on the other side had the capacity or beyond trading in petroleum products to be able to take other commodities like gold as we want to do. And gold, oil, I keep saying, they are tradable commodities. It's a very transparent market out there, such that at every point in time, you know where the petroleum products are trading. You know where gold is trading. So it is very easy to have an exchange rate between them and be able to trade them. What essentially the deputy minister wanted to say is that when you dealt with a partner on the other side who also had the capacity to deal in other commodities, then you'll be dealing with the same person. And when you deal with the same, he will be ready to take a certain amount of gold to pay for that certain amount of petroleum products that they are releasing to you. On the other hand, when you're dealing with a partner who has no capacity in other commodities beside petroleum products, then there might have to be somebody in the middle who will take the gold, monetize it, and pay for the oil that you are getting. It's that simple. So there are two arms of the transaction. So depending at every point in time who we are dealing with on the other side, it's either somebody who has capacity in the other commodities, like gold, who will be ready to take a certain amount of gold for the petroleum products that they are releasing to you, or there will be a third person in there who would take the gold, monetize it, and do. And so if for our first consignment, remember, we're still saying that we are still at the piloting phase. It is not something that we have. But over time, we'll ramp up. We'll build capacity in there. And then we can be able to.
This is good for oil thing. It looks very nice on paper. Theoretically, it looks very great. But if you think about it, you know, it's sometimes not this. The butter is not very direct from what we've seen in this first, you know, pilot, you call it. We had to buy the gold, the oil with cash. I don't see how different it's been from the past. We've always bought with cash.
Maybe it is different to the extent that...
No, wait. The difference really is that maybe the Bank of Ghana is more involved, maybe quite directly. But the point is, the gold you will always sell, and you sell in dollars. So what's this whole thing about oil? Sell your gold for the purpose, and use the money to buy the oil. Then you have the same transaction you've been having.
So Salom, I made a point that we have been mining gold for centuries. And annually, when you look at the gold that leaves our shores to very popular destinations, and how much those destinations report having received from Ghana at every point in time, the disparity is always huge. How this gold goes out, given the regime that you have to go through to be able to export gold, is still something that we are grappling with. But if through this policy, we are able to buy all this gold local, and gives us an opportunity.
I don't even see how that deals with the smuggling matter. Because
it deals with the smuggling matter
because smuggling is a result of disparity in how much the goods are sold in one place and compared to the other. So if you sell it cheaper in Ghana or you buy it cheaper, and somebody from maybe Togo or Cote d'Ivoire wants to buy it more, I'll be tempted to sell it to the guy who wants to buy it. Ironically, even the guys who are doing galamsey, if you try to buy gold off them, they will take their phone. And gold is such a tradable commodity at every point, at every minute. But in this case, the Japanese government is going to monopolize the buying of the gold. PMMC is going to be buying the gold from these guys. So if the price PMMC is offering is not competitive,
I'm saying PMMC, it's not buying this gold at a discount. The advantage we are getting this time is that rather than us use proceeds from other exportable commodities to buy oil, we are ensuring that the cedis that we get from selling oil local, we are able to convert that local asset into tradable foreign assets. I mean, from the cedi to the dollar, that will enable us buy this. So can you imagine that of the 400 million that we need every month to buy petroleum products, we are able through this process to hit it to half. It releases another $200 million for us to import other items.
No, but
principally, this whole thing, I keep saying that the policy was intended to reduce the pressure on the currency. First, reduce the pressure on the currency.
But the second, you sell it anyway. And you use,
we'll sell it anyway.
Yes, you use that money, the dollars you get to buy the oil.
Yes.
So it comes back to the same thing.
It is not a zero-sum game. It is not. The advantage is that now we are able to more rationalize the gold, the gold that we produce locally. We are able to take advantage of that to convert. Else, where would all this gold go?
I mean, it will go where it, of course, it will go where it has to go.
And the challenge also is that when they export the gold on their own, per the arrangement, they are supposed to remit whatever proceeds they get, and what percentage is remitted back. A very small percentage is remitted back. And so we tend to lose out greatly on the exports.
No, but that's government policy. If government says that X percentage should be remitted, government should ensure that that is done.
And that is one thing.
If government is failing to implement or enforce its own rules or regulations, who do we blame for that?
That is one thing. Government after government, not unique to this.
Of course, government is a continuum.
We haven't been able to be able to take advantage of remittances from some of these exports. And so if now we are saying that rather than you export at the same price that you are going to get out there, we are going to buy local. Remember, the producers of this gold, they have production costs that they have to take care of at their production levels. And they will need cedis, not dollars, to pay their employees, to buy fuel, whatever they need at their production centers. So sell to us. We will pay you cedis. And then we are able to take advantage of that to reduce the demand of dollars in the system. And it inures to everybody's advantage, such that our level of inflation, our forex, and the exchange rates will have a tab on it. It's very simple. It is not a zero-sum game. It is not business as usual.
So who are the players in this? I know there's BOG, I know there's PMMC on the government side. Who else is involved in this transaction?
Obviously, when it comes to the purchase of petroleum products, BOST has a capacity to be able to do these transactions. Keep this thing. BOST itself was created for the purposes of providing facilities for storage and transportation of petroleum products across the country, so that we have a uniform price, such that if you're in Accra and you are buying petrol at a certain price, somebody in Bolga should be able to buy at the same. So they have margins and all that they play with. BOST has a capacity. And then from BOST, the BDCs can go to BOST to offtake the products, and then we can go on to the OMCs and all of that. So it is the case of the BOG, the PMMC, one leg of it, provision of the gold, and the other leg is taken by BOST, who has a capacity to bring in these four products.
To the people in the chain. So the BOG, BOST, PMMC, the sellers of the oil, for example. But we understand that they cannot always take gold as commodity because they may not need it. They want cash, they want dollars.
But gold is always tradable.
Yes, but they are not in a position to trade it. That's not their business. They don't have a commodity platform. What they need is, bring me the cash, I give you the oil.
That is what we have said. They could always be inside the
yes. So my point is,
who is taking
so my point is, who selects a broker? How is a broker selected? How do we know that there's transparency in those selection processes?
You see, it is one thing that I've always also said, that these are tradable at this point in time. It is Saturday morning. It is about 20 minutes to 10. We could easily verify where gold is selling, where these petroleum products are selling. And so it is not a case of somebody shouting or hiding some facts from anybody. This is a very transparent process that can be verified at any point in time.
Very well. Franklin, are you there? Welcome to the program. Okay, so I do not have Franklin. This is a big issue. We are coming to you live from 97.3 City FM. We are discussing the gold for oil policy. We're asking whether it's a policy in need of more scrutiny. Quite some revelation has been made this week. We all thought that gold for oil is good for oil, but this week we heard that the 40,000 metric tons that came in a few weeks ago were actually purchased by cash. That's a revelation from the Deputy Minister. And indeed, we've been told that there's always been two legs of it. One, you monetize the gold to buy, because some of the oil, companies we're dealing with do not have a commodity trading platform, so you cannot actually use gold. But some you can use. So right from the beginning, like Honorable Fuseni has said, it was always going to be on two legs. You do with cash one, you do with butter. Gold directly. That is butter. It was a bit surprising. I would not know that from the beginning, at least majority of the public, until the Deputy Minister said it. So here we are discussing the details of this particular arrangement. What's the name? ASEP, for example, has had cause to fear that this may lead to smuggling. You've tried to allay that, but let me quote you exactly what Bemboache of ASEP said in a piece he wrote some time ago, and I'll take your response or reaction to that. So government risks encouraging the smuggling of gold from the small-scale sector in the quest to monopolize the sector through its agencies. Government risks monopolizing the sector through its agencies. So the country has been struggling to account for volumes of gold produced in the small-scale sector for years because of tax evasion and illegal gold traders who aggressively compete on price. Making PMMC the sole gold buyer could be the worst that happened to government's efforts to raise tax revenue from the oil sector. Moreover, BOG's exchange rate would be less attractive to gold producers, further risking the projected volumes needed for the gold for oil program. Well, what's your response to that?
I still don't see how that is feasible. If PMMC was buying at their own prices, then it would have probably encouraged or given the gold producers some motivation to look for other markets where they were going to get higher prices. But if PMMC is buying at the quoted world prices, what is the motivation for me to go through the trouble of smuggling this outside of the borders of Ghana to be able to sell it at the same price that PMMC is buying? It is very simple. It is very simple. Unless I need, then again, unless again I need Forex to pay my workers at the production site or pay my production expenses, I don't see why I won't take advantage of the fact that I am going to go through a safer process to get the same value for the gold that I'm going to get from PMMC. I don't know how this is going to encourage smuggling.
So we had the first consignment, and we understand it was diesel. When are we expecting the next consignment? What is it going to be? What's the timelines like? Are we going to get this periodically? I mean, how is it going to happen?
I am not too, but I know there are about 3 transactions. I cannot give you the exact timelines. I know there are about 3 transactions happened to A. But essentially, what we are saying is that this is still at the piloting stage. Currently, we have taken delivery of 40,000 metric tons. And in the mix, given our consumption level, monthly.
That is about 10% of what we need monthly.
10%.
I'm sure that's even gone already.
At the time that, in fact, surprisingly, the BDCs started supplying this particular consignment a couple of days ago, 3-4 days ago.
And we still have
3-4 days ago. So if you realize, I think the prices at Goel for diesel dropped by 50 pesos when they picked their first consignment. About 3 days ago. It moved from 15 points.
What I realized though was that diesel was a bit higher than super.
Currently.
But currently, the difference is not as much.
And that is.
And are you attributing that to the gold for oil?
Oh, what we are saying is that it's bringing a level of stability on the market.
That little movement we've seen or change we've seen, you're attributing it to the gold for oil.
There's a news item that attributed the fall in price. Is to run more because the city would have been experiencing less pressure by, let's say, 200 million by the time we're able to hit 50%. By 200 million, can you imagine that of the expenses that we have to do every month, we have found a creative way to go around go around the demand for $200 million in Ghana. It's going to bring the stability on the foreign exchange front. And that will dovetail into the other sectors.
$2.4 billion in a year.
It will dovetail into the other.
On paper, that looks nice.
I mean, it's equivalent to what we get from the Euro market.
Exactly, but that's on paper. That's on paper.
That's on paper, and we all have to support this.
Very well.
This
so that's why we're having this discussion.
So we are able to pay cheaper at the pumps.
Very well. Let me bring in Franklin Cudjoe. Franklin, how are you? I guess you're well. Were you surprised to hear this week that we actually paid cash for the 40,000 metric tons of diesel or oil that we understood came into the country some weeks ago in this gold for oil deal or arrangement?
Good morning, my good friend in the studio, Honorable. Um, Everybody could be better, really, under these circumstances. But look,
I'm on
I
TV.
don't
I'll
think there
call you
was
back.
any need to
Why?
rush this
More
process.
TV, so
I
I'll call
don't
you
think
back.
there was a need to rush it at all. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
All right. I don't think there was any need to rush the process at all if we weren't ready. There are deals like this all over the world, and I think this is not the first of its kind. I remember when we had this conversation, contrary to the perception that it was innovative, we said way back in the 40s, this had been done, and so it wasn't novel. So on your first step, especially when people have asked questions and were doubting, not necessarily doubting the deal, but doubting the processes leading to the deal, then there was no need for you to have come up short, really, and to think that you decided to pay cash when in actual fact you were telling us something else. It's really quite not on. You remember the butter trade, the butter deal, the Sino-Hydro butter deal as well. Remember when we said that, look, this whole deal, the Chinese were not interested in getting your bauxite. They were interested in getting your money. So you create an escrow account, you pay 8% of whatever money you're supposed to pay at any point in time, and then make sure that you deliver on your promise. So whether you sell the bauxite to Jamaicans or Norwegians, they really didn't care. And I thought that would have guided this same process as well. Anyway, we've heard that this is the first of its kind. Reasons given are not sufficient for us. We think that there are still questions to be asked. What is the mode of transmission of even this cash? We needed to know, was it airlifted? Was it paid through? I thought this transaction would have been paid through the wires, really, especially when we are talking about capital flights in this part of our world. So we don't know what exact amounts was transferred, and that's another question we need to really be asking. And for me, what surprised me was the Deputy Bank of Ghana governor suggesting that he knew a portion of the deal but didn't know the other leg of the deal.
No, I think what he said was the other end belonged to, was being handled by the PMMC, and that I'm sure he wanted to restrict himself to what he was very sure about and what he could speak to authoritatively.
Well, I don't think it served us well, especially when you wanted to know how much of the money you are expending on our behalf, how that money gets, where it gets to eventually, So I think maybe it's a Bank of Ghana's probably may call past suggesting that they probably didn't know any part of this deal and probably were not even interested in the first place. So however this is, I think it is important we get to the bottom of it. We need to know exactly how the cash was transferred, because that's very important. We don't know whether the excesses added. Like I said, you don't want to shroud this whole deal in some, doubt. And I feel quite let down that even though we had concerns about this deal, it has come up rather short on its first flight.
But won't you also accept that the arrangement is led to some marginal? Of course, there's been some increase, but the increase has not been as steep as we've seen in the past on the diesel front. So when you look at the pumps today, Goil especially, you realize that the difference is not as much as it used to be anytime there were increases. You don't think that's something to be grateful for or to the program for? Achieving its objective.
As I hear, there wasn't any. Was there a shortage around the world? Has there been a shortage of petrol and diesel around the world? Has there?
I don't think so. But it's
what's happening in Nigeria.
Nigeria has their own issues, right? But I'm not sure the Nigeria issue is due to, a world problem. I'm sure it's a local Nigerian problem. But the point really is that
within the last year, even in
you mean it has had impact on the price?
No, what I'm saying is that because this has been brought in and this is relatively cheaper and it is diesel, the price of diesel did not go up as it ought to, because there was a way of cutting that steep increase it would have taken.
But how much of oil, how much of the diesel, how much of the cargo was brought in?
Here is just 10% of what we need. But if
that analysis to determine whether it significantly impacted the entire market, that's 90% of the market itself, right? Anyway, look, nobody is saying that deal may not have any advantages. Really, I'm surprised to learn that it has significant impact on the pricing window. I don't. Has there been any communication to that effect that it had a significant impact on the price?
No, not significant.
That's-
Marginal impact, perhaps, but it's
That's-
just 10% of the entire thing. But
You know,
it's just 10%. But the point they are making is that even though it's just 10%, it's. I mean, the signals are good. So we look at the issues of the processes, but the objective to bring down the price of the commodity or the
so was this a
product.
test transmission? Was it a test transmission or the deal had taken?
They said it's pilot, frankly. So just hold it there. I'll come back to you. Let me hear 1 minute from Nana Amoisi VII, who's the Executive Director of the Institute of Energy Security. Nana, I recall you were on Zoom one of the very first times we discussed this year, and you were quite clear that this was not a good deal, and it was shrouded in so much, it was opaque, it wasn't very transparent and all of that, and you wondered why government was going this way. Some water has passed under the bridge. Do you still hold the same views, or you think that there's now increased transparency and now you can see the deal a bit more clearly?
Thanks for having me on your show. I think at this point we've all had clarity on our earlier pronouncement that the deal lacks transparency, and it's not just shrouded in secrecy, but a lot of inconsistencies and confusion. If you hear our own Deputy Energy Minister comes to say, we didn't exchange our fuel for our gold for fuel, but we rather did cash. When earlier on they've given us all indications that for this parcel, this is what this is how they went about it. It becomes quite confusing at the point, and we think that government can come out clear, give indication to everybody, not just where we are sourcing the fuel from, but then who is the intermediary in this transaction? How was he elected or selected? On what basis? How much is the intermediary earning per every metric ton deal that we do? If it's gold that we are exchanging, or we are selling the gold for cash and take the cash and go and buy, who bought it and who is buying this, and how much did you sell it for? We think that a lot of clarity can be brought to bear on this deal, so that we can all be convinced that it's going to give us that value that we crave for. We are guided by incidents of the past. 1995, Iran Oil for Food program. In fact, the intermediary or the agency leg became the platform for wastage and corruption. Today, we have Nigeria's Oil for Fuel program. It is also plagued with wastage and corruption. And so we believe that barter trading in itself will not give you like for like, and somebody must lose in that very frame. And so we believe that we need to get that assurance from government that, look, I am putting your resources to good use, I am generating value for you, and these are the indices to guide me as I go along. Then, of course, we can also go relaxing and believing that government can really bring us the value that we all crave for. You don't bring one parcel of diesel 41,000 metric ton, and before it arrives, we've got indication that it's going to reduce fuel prices. That is a drop in an ocean, 41,000 metric ton. And like you indicated, just 10% of our monthly consumption, and let's say 25% of our diesel demand every month. And how can just 25% dilute the entire market structure to bring us that very reduction that we are looking for? And we also see a subtle or clear attempt to push goal to bring to bear on Ghanaians what government has projected, a reduction. Few days ago, gold did brought out their prices. 3 days later, gold is forced to bring down price again. If you are looking at what happened on international markets, coupled with the happenings on the domestic forex market, there's every indication that diesel price should go up by more than 9%. But what did we see? Some 5%. Then we come back again 3 days later, and gold reduces its price. This same government owes gold more than 320 million Ghana cedis. Okay, when you push an oil marketing company to be doing some of these things, you are asking the company to begin to accept losses and its impact on their books, and at a point, they can't function the way they need to function. And so we think that government should be careful about the whole arrangement, bring clarity to bear on it. And you see, if government tells us that I am doing this program to assure fuel supply security, in fact, I will take it, even though it will be hard for me, I'll absorb it to some extent. But to tell every Ghanaian that my program is going to reduce fuel prices significantly, it is something that can never work. This is not how the market works.
I see.
This is not
yes,
extension of thought.
wait, I think I need to take a break, but I don't even know whether to go to Frank. Frank, let me hear you. In 2 seconds, quickly. I want to take a break.
You know what we don't want is an extension of thought, really. I mean, this is like,
we'll get to the third discussion. This is the big issue. My guest, the Honorable Fuseni Issa, former MP, Ukakwe, not former member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Nana Musi, the 7th Executive Director, IES, Franklin Kujo, President Money Africa, and Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, who joins us pretty soon, MP for Cape Coast South and former Regional Minister, Central Region, former Deputy Minister, Finance. We'll take a short break, return, and then look at the other legs of this particular discussion on the gold for oil policy. Don't go away.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
My name is Gina, and this salon is where I work.
Good morning. Hey, morning. You've already met your new colleague, have you?
Who was this Kujubisi? He fell from the sky.
I'm so glad there's a man amongst you. You ladies gossip too much. Hey, girls.
Today, Madam came in with a hot, sexy guy. And they were doing lobby.
Hey. Did Madam think men don't gossip?
The grapevine.
I've noticed a massive decline in our daily proceeds.
I suggest we fast and pray.
The spirit, hey, told me today that I will see a man in this salon.
He said his wife is dead?
Yes, she was sick.
Hey, what sickness? Aite, it is your mother that will get leukemia and die. It is your mother.
I don't like what you are doing at all.
Hey, you want to fight?
Showing every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. with repeats on Friday at 10 p.m., Saturday at 6 p.m., and Sunday at 12:30 p.m. The Hairdressers is sponsored by Ebony Condoms.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access.
Welcome back to The Big Issue. Very big welcome to our TV viewers. We are looking at two key issues this week that have come up this week. The gold for oil policy. People think that it's been shrouded in a lot of secrecy. It lacks transparency. The deal or the arrangement and the process is very opaque. Of course, one of my guests disagrees. He thinks it's the best thing that has happened to us so far as a country. My guest, the Honorable Inisa Fuseni, MP for. Sorry, it's always a problem. Honorable Fuseni Isa, who is former MP for Kankwe North and a former member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Nana Moisi, the 7th Executive Director, Institute of Energy Security. The Honorable Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, Member of Parliament, Cape Coast South, held many portfolios, Deputy Finance, Deputy Trade, and Central Regional Minister. Franklin Kujo, who is President of Imani Africa. These are my guests for this segment of the program. Later on, we will look at the school placement, whether it's a flawed system or not. We hear that people are now paying huge sums of money to have their awards posted or placed in top-tier schools. As much as 20,000 cedis, etc., are being paid to get children into Wesley Girls, Presec, etc. What's happening? How can we improve the system? How can we take out the corruption and make it fair so that you are placed on merit and not whether you have deep pockets or not? Of course, private schools have also complained that it appears public schools are favored in the placements, above them. What is the truth in that? Is there a policy rationale? Is there a quota system there? What really is the situation? We also understand that because of that, a lot of people who school in the private schools go to register in the public schools so that when they do well a bit, they can be posted to or placed in very top schools. We don't know whether all these are true. We'll find out in the next segment of the program. So back to the gold for oil policy. Gentlemen, once again, you're welcome. Honorable Ricketts-Hagan, I recall that when this matter came up, you said it was a daft idea. I recall vividly on this program, you said it was a daft idea. Now we have the 40,000 tons in the system being sold around. BDCs, everybody appears to be having a bit of it. And we are understanding that the movement or the price change, as far as diesel is concerned, it's not been as steep as it would have been because of the gold for oil, the 40,000 metric tons that came. That surely should be good news. That is objective. You still think it's a daft idea a few weeks on?
Well, it's even worse than that.
Really?
First of all, good morning to your, to my friends on the panel, to yourself, and Happy New Year. I haven't seen you.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Happy New Year too.
And good morning to our viewers this morning.
And Cape Coasters.
And Cape Coasters, of course. It's really crazy, that we should embark on this journey without actually doing any proper, such findings as to whether what we are talking about itself is actually even practical. It looks like this is some kind of a unilateral agreement, a unilateral commodity agreement within the global space of commodity market. And for me, that is where the problem lies, because this becomes a distortion to both the market and even to us in Ghana. And let me try and explain that. First of all, you say that, or the BDCs have made us know that we spend about $400 million a month, okay? Now, we have deregulated the market. So basically, the BDCs find their own private money. And then, of course, they come to Bank of Ghana for the dollars, which they need the dollars. These are more or less like a supplier's credit or a short-term facility that they are taking, which they will have to come back and pay. Unfortunately, unfortunately, because they buy the oil in dollars and sell to domestic consumers in cedis, they in the end mop up cedis, which they have to use in paying Bank of Ghana, but will be the equivalent. So we are in this, if they were to sell, and suppose you are in the US market, and then you sell in dollars, and then go and take your stock in dollars, you wouldn't have a problem. But then because we are cedis, therefore that's why we rely on, they rely on Bank of Ghana. But it's actually private funds that they are using to do that. Now, so first of all, if you want to go, if we have deregulated the system, if you want to go back to some kind of a regulation, which is this policy suggests, first of all, you must be ready that you actually have 400 million worth of gold, not dollars, because you are providing the BDCs with dollars, but you have $400 million worth of gold every month that you can exchange for oil. You know, what is
But they say it may not be total, maybe if they are 50%, that's fine.
Well, you know, now let's build the case. Then that's one. Number two is that how much, what is it called, gold do you buy? That is the central government. You have central government, you have PMMC. They are the ones supposed to come up with this gold. Now, between the two of them, they do about $120 million worth of gold. Roughly 60 million by Bank of Ghana, 60 million by, you know, PMMC. Let's say PMMC, because it's their business, probably do slightly more. That is short of the 400 million worth. And I'm assuming that the gold is, the oil is being bought, you know, from the market at a market price. Okay. Now they are telling us that they are doing, as I said, unilateral deal with somebody, whether it's a country or whether it's an individual or whether it's a petroleum product firm, to get a better deal than what they will get in the market. Normally these things will happen with country to country where you are in some difficulties and then you are good friends with Venezuela or you are good friend with Russia and Russia is going through the sanctions that they are going through at the moment and they want to obviously divert the selling of their oil somewhere else. And because of the pressures on them, they can do it at some discount. So you take advantage of it. But that even is not sustainable because that's a geopolitical situation.
Yes, it may end soon, yeah.
If that changes, you don't have a policy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, third, if you want to give gold to somebody, that person, even if that person wants gold, must have the capacity to receive gold. Wanting gold and the capacity to receive it are two different things. What do I mean by that? To have a capacity to receive gold, you must have a wing or a partner who is in the commodities market of buying gold, because your business is in the petroleum product, finished product. So if somebody is bringing you gold, that is, even if you need it, you must have the capacity, because you are not a central bank where you can say that you are building a gold reserve, therefore you are buying gold and all that. And your business model is to sell for cash, get a small margin on. The price of the crude itself is determined in the market by OPEC countries, or you know, and then that trickles down to the finished product, or what you call the what is it called, the downstream product that you get, you know. So if you are dealing with companies that don't have the capacity to take gold, even if they have the desire to take it, you can't do business with them. Because they don't have an arm that will take this gold that you'll be bringing in, presumably every month. So if you don't have that, and even if they make a temporary arrangement with you that they will do, at the point of sale, what will happen is what has happened to us.
Okay.
At the point of sale, the guys don't have capacity to take gold, so now you have to pay them cash. To pay them cash and claim that you have two streams or one stream or whatever you have, really that make a mockery of the whole thing. Because it defeats all the benefit that your policy is supposed to give us. And one of the benefits, as you know, is to be able to help us hold on to the cedi in terms of its depreciation against the US dollars. Now, if you're going to end up with cash, then what's the point? Okay, so that's one. Secondly, you are supposed to be able to get us a much lower fuel prices, because you are going out there to make this negotiation, presumably to buy it cheaper. They claim they are getting it cheaper. They claim the oil prices we are getting are better than otherwise would have been if they haven't gone for that arrangement. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But as far as I'm concerned, oil prices are going up. You can say that, okay, crude prices as they go up or go down, it's directly proportional to the price at the pump. So basically, to go into this arrangement where all these things are not firmly in place, one would have thought that to come up with this policy, you have done some search that there are companies out there who supply this petroleum, who are interested in getting gold and have the capacity to take gold. So this arrangement doesn't seem to be firm. And then yourself, the amount of gold that you need to buy, you don't seem to be getting that in the market. Whether you buy from small scale gold, you buy from Galamsey, you buy from, what is it called, people at the middle or large scale companies, you are not making that 400 million. Therefore, you've shot yourself in the foot before you started. It's not going to be sustainable. Now you say, oh, even if you get 50%, that's okay. Let's presume that that's fine. But you have failed from the very onset. Such policy is definitely not going to be consistent.
But I don't think they said from the beginning that, it's going to be 100% good for oil. I think what they try to say is that a good chunk of it will be good for oil, so that can help reduce the price of the fuel at the pump. And I think that's what they've been saying.
I don't know if you've gone back to look at exactly what he said.
It's going to be entirely so.
At the moment, what do you say, gold for oil? Now, I'm out to imagine that it will not be all gold, but somewhere along the line. You see, because what informs that this is 100% gold for oil is in the details in terms of what the policy is supposed to benefit us.
Okay.
If the benefit of the policy is to stay away from using cash so that the city can appreciate against the USD, then you are not going to tell me that it's not entirely...
But I think the point is, if you expect that the city will appreciate maybe 20% against the dollar, that is at 100%, $400 million worth of gold, and you raise half of that, the appreciation will be 10%, and that is quite significant to help us manage our...
Have you seen that appreciation?
It is just a drop in the ocean. It is just 10%.
It is absolutely a drop in the ocean. Therefore, you don't come up with a policy that you cannot actually see.
But it's a pilot.
And it's not good. That's even the West. That makes it... Look, you manufacture... What cars are we manufacturing in the country now?
Toyota, Suzuki,
No, the ones that the government has brought in. Good in bringing in this assembly.
Okay.
I think it's VW or something like
VW,
that. Okay.
VW, yes.
When we say tests, it means you are testing what you are going to roll out. So you manufacture a VW and you are going to test it. You don't test Toyota. If you say VW is what you are going to test and roll it out. If you say you're going to do gold for oil,
you don't test
why cash. Do you don't test oil against cash?
But he said it used to be it's always been two legs.
So what they are doing is not a test. Can I finish?
Let him answer.
What they are doing is not a test, because what they are testing is completely different from
what they are testing is cash, not gold.
No gold.
But it's part of the two legs. It is a two leg.
I never heard of any two legs. I never heard of any two streams until my cousin Ejapa put it out there. And then look, what is even worse, and that's what I'm telling you, that is moved from, we had a central bank, we have a central bank governor, deputy governor of the central bank, goes to a committee in parliament, what's their name? Public accounts.
I thought you remember.
And I'm not a member of public accounts. And I know public accounts, but I'm not a member. And then they go to the committee and say that they ask you, how much, first of all, not even how much, what did you use in buying the oil? Is it gold or cash? And he said, I don't know. I can't answer that question. Exactly.
What I know is that he said the ounces of gold used, he has to check. But to be fair to him...
I mean, you're a deputy governor of the bank.
To be fair to him, he was there to answer questions on accounts, Auditor General's reports. And this matter came up. So to be fair, I'm not sure he would be...
So he was not prepared.
Maybe. That's why he kept saying that he will have to get back to them. Given that there are a lot of things in the economy.
These are one of the crucial things.
Yes. So in your view, because it's so crucial and topical, you should have known about it.
It's like somebody asking me what's the inflation rate. And I said that, well, I came here to talk about something else, so I don't know the inflation rate. I'm the deputy finance minister.
But they're not the same.
Oh, but you've been a deputy Minister for Trade and Industry,
Of
you
course.
were a little while ago, you were asking the cars that we are manufacturing in Ghana.
No, but he got it right. He said,
Ultimately, but he wasn't
No, no.
too certain.
You
He should
got
have
it-
come
you got
out
it
to
right.
say we are manufacturing
Listen,
BW, we are doing something.
listen. I can
It is
ask
the case.
I can ask to be reminded. But before you even reminded me, I remembered it. Okay, you never told me VW. You never told me VW. I mentioned it. Okay, and I also went ahead and said that it's a good thing. If you remember that I said that's a good thing.
Like good for oil.
Yes. Oh no, don't go there. Don't go there. So this whole thing is, first of all, again, you look at it, and then you say that, okay, fine. Let's say it's a fantastic policy or whatever, but if you are going to do such a transaction, Article 181 of the Constitution clearly says
it's an
that international transaction. You are not doing it at Kokumpe. You are doing it in, Middle East. But the oil is coming
but
from.
it's a private arrangement that we've said many times. The Bank
Private
of
arrangement
Ghana's role really is to facilitate, to ensure that the gold is bought and all of that, and the exchange happens. So
who is buying it?
No, for a lot of.
Let's be clear on this thing.
No, he will tell us.
The transparency that is not, this whole thing is shrouded in some kind of a secrecy. The moment you bring in taxpayers' money, it is no longer private. Okay, we had an existing arrangement where the Bank of Ghana lends money, was a supplier's credit or whatever, to support a private individual who has their own money and use it to buy this thing, whether even if they are paying in cedis. That is the regulation. We run a deregulated system. If government is going to intervene, maybe rightly so, to help, the right things must be done.
Very well.
There are
So
checks
it
and
will be interesting
balances
to
in the
see the
country.
agreement. Who the parties in the agreement
Exactly.
will be. Whether BOG or government of Ghana is a party to the agreement.
That's also my concern. That is why it should come to Parliament, so that we know exactly, even if it's for information purpose, to tell Parliament that yes, we are using government money, or we are using Bank of Ghana money, or we are buying the gold on behalf of these guys. But even if it's not a government kind of thing, but again, the question then becomes, where is the money to buy the gold in the first place coming from?
Very well.
It is not in the budget. You never told us that you'll be buying gold. Therefore, it's not in the budget. So you have no revenues that you have ring-fenced to do that. That's number one. Number two, even if you are borrowing the money, short-term or long-term, to do that,
Parliament should know.
Parliament should know of any debt arrangement that we are having. Don't forget that we have crystallized a deficit, which is being funded by borrowing. Therefore, if you come up with any outside borrowing, which is not in the budget, we have to be able to interrogate that and make sure that, first of all, what is the agreement? The trading agreement itself, as you were saying, who are the parties we are dealing with? The last time people were jet off to Middle East, United Arab Emirates,
to bring cheap oil.
And the oil is now coming from Russia. It rings a bell. COVID.
No, but I thought, I thought this was from Dubai.
Well, they told me, I heard it's from some company starts with an L, from Russia.
Letasco. Office also in UAE.
Dubai.
Letasco has an office.
Okay, so this one in particular is coming from UAE.
Honorable Fusenu can help us.
Okay, all right. So
Yes,
a lot of
please
it
take it from
is but
So,
you get there. So if you could wrap up.
Look, where a product is coming from might not necessarily mean that is where it originates from. There could be a Russian company based in the United Arab Emirates. But that Russian company is a Russian oil company that presumably gets its oil from Russia. I don't think that a Russian company will be sitting in UAE
and getting
oil from UAE. There are better people who can do that than them. So it is a competitive advantage. Why they are located there? Because they're able to bring cheap Russian oil in. Obviously, you will have a middleman who is an Arab somewhere there. COVID, that's where COVID comes into mind. You got a middleman who is buying COVID from us, but the person is from the UAE. You see, the secrecy issue about this, lack of transparency, the feasibility of the whole thing is not feasible. It doesn't look right. And then again, you talk about the legitimacy of it, which is to do with whether this thing should be in parliament or not. And then if we are not careful, we'll be bordering around criminality, depending on the source of where this is. Who are we dealing with? They say a Russian company sitting in
UAE.
Who's done a background on these companies and know exactly?
Maybe they've done that. Maybe they'll have to put out that with time.
But
So
they haven't shown any of us anything.
no, I'll come to you. Just soak the bullets, and I'll give you time to respond to all of them.
Soak it. And you have a lot to answer.
Questions to answer.
Yes. So he's saying it's not feasible.
Maybe nobody has asked you.
Given the current arrangements, you also raised issues about transparency. Is that the same? What can we be doing? What should government be doing to clean up this deal, or they should just pack baggage and leave?
Okay, so we met, CSOs met MPA, we met BOST on the same transaction, even though the presentation they made, the two entities were quite different. They were sitting at the same table, but the presentation they gave us were different. But then BOST tells us that yes is the best. Okay, and the first solution they, according to them, seeking to introduce is that they are making sure that there is enough dollars in the system to ease the pressure on the demand of the dollar by the BDCs. That's the first thing they sought to convince us to accept. If that is the case, then if you use the cities, of which we are still asking questions, where are you getting the cities from to go and mop up the gold from the field? Where are you getting that money from? That's a question I'm sure Honorable can help us. Now we've gotten the gold.
Yeah.
The gold in itself is dollars. Okay?
Yeah.
Our question is, are you selling the gold to a known entity for dollars? If you have dollars, then you mean that in our votes, there's dollars that BDCs can source from.
Yeah.
That pressure is taken off. Why jet off with the same amount to go and buy the product yourself?
Yeah.
Your history guy tells us that BOST is not a good trader when it comes to oil or fuel. Okay, and let me go back a bit. The name oil, gold for oil itself, is quite confusing. The moment you touch on oil, what comes to mind is crude oil. This is good for fuel. They should go and correct it and bring clarity to bear on that. And so
Maybe
if you
to grow, the arrangement to grow, that they will, in the end, revamp Tor, bring oil proper for refining
in
and all
fact,
of
the
that. So they need a name that will be all
Honorable Mesa has
encompassing.
assured us that in February Tor will start.
Yes, and then a new refinery is actually going
we'll
to start
come to
working.
that
Yes.
one, I'm sure. So if the idea is to ease the pressure on the dollar, and you have gotten gold, sell the gold, get your dollar in our reserve and votes. So the BDCs can source for it.
So you take yourself out of it.
So you take yourself out of the loop. If you also need parts of it, also apply for it. Okay, but you want to capture almost 50% of the market yourself, and that means that you are ready to generate dollars to the tune of about $200 million per month. Do you have that capacity? We think that government should provide more clarity on this, and that's why Honorable Hussein is here. How much gold they exchange for in dollar to get about 40 million. In fact, how much is the price of the cargo? That 41,000 metric ton, how much is it? Who supplied that oil? And if it's true that it's coming from Russia, we only pray that it's not a contraband goods. How much did we get the oil for? That's the price. Then the premium, did we get it for at a discount or at a premium? Because from our own desktop calculation, Graphic reported that the 41,000 metric ton, they got it for almost $40 million. Okay, so that's about $900 per metric ton, thereabout $960 per metric ton.
But if they got it for about 40 million, that should be fine, because if every month we expend about 400 million, and this is just 10% of that, then it works out to be the same, right?
It doesn't work out to be the same. See, Honorable Ricketts said that you are even trying to distort a deregulated market. You bring 10% of our monthly need, and you are trying to ensure that whatever reduction you got on your premium, is coming to the markets, and everybody, the other 90% supply, wherever they got it from, they should follow the lead, because gold is the market leader, controlling almost 21% of the market. What are you trying to do to the markets? You're trying to tell the others that follow gold and make losses, because they didn't get it at your lower premium. It's not discount. They got it at a premium.
Okay.
Of about $90 per metric ton. Some BDCs are bringing it at $120. Others are also getting for $90 per metric ton. We have one BDC that gets it. But the other ones, what becomes of them? You are distorting the market with your 10%. And this is not sustainable in the sense that you will be collapsing a market. At a point in time, all the BDCs will say, bring the product yourself. Do you have that muscle to bring all that volume of product? That's the question.
I see.
But to conclude, I still insist that Honorable Fuseni should tell us where we got the fuel from, at what price, at what premium, and
he's put on his tablet, which means he's ready to tell us.
Who bought that parcel of gold for dollars, of which they went buying with cash?
Okay. All right. Franklin, let me deal with Franklin so that we.
There's too many issues. Let me probably then.
No, I thought Franklin would add his, then I give you all the time to do it. Franklin, is there not a thing to be said for this program that, there's an escrow account, the BOG, together with others are working. So they put the money there, there's a broker, and when the money is ready, the oil company takes the money. Is that not a tidy arrangement? Is that not how it's supposed to be?
Well, if it were the case, we wouldn't have to be discussing this matter at all. Look, I think the CSO Alliance put out a statement during the week. And let me just reiterate a few of the issues, the risk factors associated with this program that they cited from the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative report. First of all, there's the absence of a buyer selection criteria in respect of the off-taker of Ghana's gold. There's the absence of supplier selection criteria in respect of the supply of petroleum products. No disclosure of pricing policy for Ghana's gold. No disclosure of pricing policy for the petroleum products purchased. Lack of clarity on how the transaction costs under the program would be covered. No disclosure of the means by which government intends to raise money to finance its gold for oil purchases. I mean, these are clear policy issues that must have been, dealt with even before this policy took off. And we don't know. That's why we are all asking questions. Who bought it? How much of the gold was traded for these 40,000 tons of refined products? At what price was the gold traded for? How much gold has been purchased up to date under the program? And what's the source of financing for the purchase of the gold, as it was not provided for in the budget? These are clear questions that ought to be answered, and I'm sure Honorable Fuseni is well prepared to answer.
He's taking copious notes.
No, why is the gentleman, my good friend, the gentleman from the Vice President's office, who
Dr. Mahama Kaburi?
Yes, did you call him? Because I think he would have answers than my good friend Fuseni.
No, I think they are all in the same team, so they share answers. So let's hear the answers from Inusa. Inusa, what are the number of questions that you have to answer? I don't know where you want to take it from. I mean, where is the oil coming from and all of that?
Right.
A number of them. So just go through it so your thoughts. So your train of thought is not distorted.
I'll start by saying that it is not the intention of government to distort the market. The government's interest is to ensure that we have stability on our economic front. We are able to create the macroeconomic stability. We think that the issue of currency, it's been perennial. I mean, every now and again it comes up, and we needed to resolve it. If you look at the policy framework, the major object of the policy was to bring stability in our forex market. And the thinking is that even if we are able to ramp up to half of our monthly consumption, it takes $200 million of the amount of dollars we would need to be able to fuel this economy. And so it is not. And the other bit is also that when these products come into bust, it is not exclusive to gold. Other BDCs are also who are capable can go to boss to take the products. So it is not a case of government funding this through GOL and asking other people who get the products from other sources to follow the lead created by GOL. Other BDCs could go and take. And for me personally, sometimes I've sat back and even asked myself, whether in this whole scheme of pricing products, we actually need BDCs who are middlemen. Yes, maybe because of the exchange rate exposures and managing, we probably need them in the chain to be able to manage the availability of the products and the case of the challenges we have every now and again with our currency. That's fine. But it could also be a case where the OMCs could get their products directly. If we reduce the number of entities within the channel, is the final consumer at the pump going to benefit? Because the profit margins taken by all the different entities along the channel will be reduced. That is one argument that I think of personally sometimes, and I don't know how we can go around it. Honorable Rickett Hagan asked the question of whether we are able to get $400 million worth of gold available every month. Nobody said that we want to do the entire $400 million a month, just like we have in our energy mix. There's thermal, there's hydro, there's some level of solar. At every point in time, depending on the mix that we have, will determine the final pricing. So if we are able to even do half of this, I think that it's a huge stability that we are going to bring in the forex market for us. Is this a case of us taking advantage of geopolitics happening? We are dealing with market participants like Litasco. This is even if it's a Russian company, but it's a company which is global. Everywhere where
they're not affected by the current sanctions from the West.
They might. I mean, they might be affected.
We saw what happened.
We saw what happened to Chelsea Football Club over time. Now they've come through the sanctions and all of that. They're recovering. It is a case that we are not going to do anything that is not consistent with our foreign policy. Ghana as a nation, we have stated clearly our stance on whatever is happening in that region between Russia and Ukraine. We've been consistent with it. And I don't think that we are going to do anything that is going to be inconsistent with the stance that we have taken in the geopolitics happening in that region.
But I don't think that patronizing fuel
from Russia, just like he mentioned, you might be dealing with a company called Litasco. You might be dealing with a company called Litasco, and presumably this company should be somewhere in Moscow or something. But given how businesses are done, particularly with global companies, it might even be in Arab world dealing independent of what's happening in Russia. Who knows? And for that details, I am not. But what I want to say is that I don't think that we would do anything contrary to the stance we have taken in the foreign policy front. So it is also not a. Nobody said that we necessarily have to buy this product at a discount. Our object is the stability with the currency and the advantage that it brings. We have said continuously, two critical factors that affect how much I am going to pay for petrol when I get out of here is the exchange rate and the world markets for crude and for finished products. So if we are able to control the exchange rate and bring some stability, ultimately it is going to reflect at the pump. And that is the object of so it is not a case of us necessarily or somebody touting the fact that we are going to get this product at a discount. If we do, maybe because of the country-to-country system that we want to run. If we do, so be it. The ultimate beneficiary is the Ghanaian at the pump. If we do, that's fine. If we're able to get to this product at a discount, that's fine. We are not going to say because other BDCs are getting this product at, like he said, $120 per metric ton. If we get it at 90, the mix at every point in time will determine the ultimate price at the pump. And it's nothing the monetization of the gold. You see, when the Deputy Minister for Energy spoke, he didn't mention cash at any point in time. He didn't. What he said was that the gold that we have was monetized. Was monetized. And that necessarily doesn't involve the physical movement of cash. No. No, it could be a broker who accepts that I'm going to buy this gold at this, and then I'm going to deal with the other party.
Are this not the issues we need clarified?
If it is done internally in Ghana, then you will say that it's a zero-sum game where ultimately we still need the dollars too. But if this monetization is done outside of Ghana, it shows that we have still made some gains by not having to look for the physical hard currency US dollar to be able to get this product. So there is still a huge advantage in there for us as a nation. So it is not a case of, and we didn't use gold, but we use cash. We have said, and per the model that I have seen, ab initio, from when it started, it has been very clear that there are two legs of it. And as to whether companies like Litasco, whether they deal only in petroleum products and crude, and so they don't have the capacity to deal with other commodities. I mean, these are tradable commodities anywhere. Even if we have to bring in another institution to be able to broker between the gold and these are verifiable. Verifiable. It is getting to 10 today. We can sit here and we will know the pricing of gold, and we will know how much gold we have to exchange.
Gold was monetized or used in exchange for the 10%
sell-off. Even the deputy minister, the deputy governor says that he has to verify. And you don't expect me to sit here and mention it is the fact that he had gone to the committee for another issue, and this matter had come up.
But you came here for this.
I have come in for this. I don't want to mention an amount because there's been some reportage somewhere, but I am sure that this is something that we could easily verify.
Okay.
Even given the transaction, whether it was spot, whether it was forward, all of this could affect the amount of gold that we had to exchange. And so it is not something that we need to overly, yes, I agree. I agree that people want to verify certain aspects of it. That is totally.
Where is the Bank of Ghana getting the money from to buy this gold from the people?
Remember, the Bank of Ghana serves as the government bank. I mean,
it prints its own money.
I am not saying printing, but the government keeps an account. BOST, who is bringing in the product, it's a totally government.
So the people's money, more or less, right?
But if it's the people's money,
yes. I'm getting to a point.
Yeah.
So the talk about this being an international, agreement or transaction, for which reason the people's representative should know about or should know what's going on. What's your take on that? Using the people's money to purchase something.
I've had reference to Article 181 of the Constitution, which requires that every transaction that involves international parties should actually come to Parliament. That is what our Constitution says. In this case, is this the first time BOST is buying fuel? Is it part of the mandate for BOST to be able to provide or make the fuel products available? Is BOST doing something contrary to the legislation that set up BOST? If it is beyond what BOST was actually set up to do, then I will agree. But if it is within the framework, that's why we have said that there are two arms of this transaction at every point in time. The first one is making sure that we have enough gold that we could exchange for the products, and the other one is making the products available. So if BOG and PMMC are in a relationship to ensure that at every point in time we have a certain amount of gold that could be exchanged for a certain amount of it. BOG, it is not a business of BOG or PMMC to go to the market to shop for and get the full product. It is a business of BOST to do it. And BOST takes delivery of it. And BOST actually is what has been set up to ensure that they have facilities to store those and distribute along the country.
How about the suggestion?
So what I'm saying is that if it is ultra virus to the mandate of BOST, then it's another thing.
How about
if it is not, then I don't really see how Article 181 kicks in.
How about the suggestion that, yes, you want to use gold for this, trade the gold, keep the money with the Bank of Ghana, open it up to the BDCs who are interested, like it's always been done, so that you have enough dollars to provide for them to do this on their own. It's the same gold arrangement. It takes, BOG and PMMC all out of this. It makes the process cleaner and tidier.
I still think that, like we have said, there's a policy that is just started. We are dealing with just 10% of our requirement. Over time, we want to ramp up. We are doing the learnings. You can have the best of policies on paper, think through it. When you start to roll it out, it is for you to get feedback. as to what needs or what could be improved with the policy. And so if people are asking for transparency, if people are bringing suggestions, I think it's the right thing for us to do as a nation at this time.
Yes.
But nobody should tell us that this is a zero-sum game. No, it isn't.
So the cheapness of the oil, I mean, that's the whole idea, I think. And everybody wants cheaper oil. That's cheaper but good oil. That's good. But what to be cheaper than oil that you refine yourself? These are finished products coming into the system.
Then again,
the issue about Tor,
yeah,
you know, and the other refineries, where are we with that? We've had promises in the past that Tor will start working X number of months. Later, nothing happens. We are told it's an issue of investment. Now we are being told that government is facilitating a certain private, you know, refinery that will come on stream very soon. What's the plan for Tor? And I'm sure the workers there continue to draw salaries every month. What's the output?
Tor has been a huge problem. I mean, obviously.
Why are we not solving it? Why can't we solve it?
I'll tell you some of the problems Tor has. I gather that a Chinese refinery that is coming online, it has a capacity of, I think, 100 metric tons or something like that. And it employs 50 people.
50, okay.
50.
Tor employs 2,000 people. 2,000
already 1,200 people.
Okay.
That alone makes that operation cost in Tor is way above.
But as we speak, they are still there. They are not really working, but they are getting paid.
It's an issue. It's an issue about.
But let them work. Let them work.
I'm hearing that if you go back historically to the amount of crude that you have to feed to Tor and its output, it's about 37%. That's what I'm gleaning. I have to verify some of this stuff. But this Chinese people will get in excess of 90%. I mean, given the input and output.
Why they put in the oil and the proper oil that comes is 37%.
Yeah,
so the rest,
that's what I believe.
The rest becomes what?
37% or so.
The rest becomes what?
I don't know. I don't know the state of technology.
The rest becomes what? The rest of the 63% becomes what?
Obviously, you agree with me. Tor needs significant investment.
Yeah, but we've been at this for 6 years.
To come to where it is.
We've been at this for 6 years.
And sometimes, yes, we've been at it. We need about $1 billion to bring Tor to. Is that right?
No.
That's what. How much investment do we need? How much do we need to?
You don't need to even put in money. You need the right structure for somebody to bring in that money, revamp Tor, and make Tor work.
That's
not what you need to.
That's a way.
But why is it difficult to do that?
Why is it difficult to do that?
And the people are there, the 1,002 people you talk about, they are there. We don't know what they are doing. But
in fact, government is not in a position to put money into Tor.
Yeah, of course. I mean, given where we are.
So look for the right structure.
So it is also another issue that could be dealt with on another platform.
The talk is
right?
that government is not committed to resourcing Tor for Tor to work or getting Tor resources.
Obviously, they are
because there are
problems
business interests in getting the finished products from outside.
Obviously,
and government really,
obviously, it is one of our challenges. It is one of our challenges. That look, it's very simple to bring in finished products. They are interested there. I mean, we have read reports about that. They are interested there. Tor itself as an entity also has teething problems that we have to deal with. And it's in the midst of where we are now. In the midst of where we find ourselves now as a nation. What would you have us do? Putting Tor back on stream. It's probably a medium to long term thing. Maybe it will take a year or two for us to do. Immediately, what can we do to ensure that the Ghanaian who goes to the pump is able to, pay reasonable prices for it, given where we are now? Because inflation, food inflation is pushing this thing up. If you're able to cut and bring all of this cost under some sort of level of control, it inures to the average Ghanaian. So this is what government is looking at. Nobody should be able to tell us that this is a zero-sum game and that there are no benefits to this policy. No.
I see.
There are huge advantages to this policy, and that is where we.
So please let me come in here.
Yes. So deal with the Tor matter for me. He thinks that Tor is a medium to long-term project.
What my honorable is trying to do is to demonize Tor.
I am not.
See, let me correct this.
Let me make a point.
If you tell me
I am not here
when
to
you
demonize
put
Tor.
a
Far from
million,
it. I am talking about the teething problems I know Tor has. In a long to medium term, we probably will.
We all know the problems of
Tor. A new refinery.
If you tell me that a new refinery is in the offing, and this refinery can, when they take 1 million barrels, they're able to account for about 90% of the crude oil in terms of finished products, but Tor does about 37%.
He said he wasn't very sure.
So what you are not sure about, you don't speak to. You speak to facts. You don't tell me that when you put 1 million barrels to Tor can account for only 37%. It is not true. It's never true.
So what's the figure you know?
You see, you need to, every crude oil and its assay, what it can churn out and the type of product it can churn out. Ultimately, the value of the product that will be churned out should be above the value of the crude oil. That tells you your margin.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not like saying 87%. Historically, Tor has processed crude for bust and accounted for it. And the Tor bust has paid them tolling fee. Tor has processed crude for Vitol and their partners, and they have accounted for it. Okay, so you can't tell me that Tor cannot operate and operate efficiently. In 2016, December 2016, Tor received a parcel of crude from the Tenfield here in Ghana. They processed this crude midway 2017,
okay.
and they were able to crack it. It's one of the sweetest crude you could have. So Tor is in the capacity to process.
Right now.
The CDU, the crude distillation unit, is fit. Just I've been sitting idle for 2 years. So expect that when you have a car sitting idle for many years and you're going to start the car, you have to be doing some maintenance. And even when you start the car, you could see some leakages that you need to fix. But all in all, we can speak for the CDU. The residual fluid catalytic cracker, RCC, has challenges to be dealt with. But the primary unit is in good shape. And this CDU, the new refinery is talking about, their first 40,000 capacity is ready. And they're also using their CDU to start with. The RFCC and the reformers will come later. And by end of 2025, they could be doing 120,000 barrels per day. Okay. We are sitting idle watching people or the staff at Tor living. And every month somebody leaves. Every month at Tor.
Of the 1,200 people.
Of course, but don't even, the 1,200 people, let me tell you, it is only about 9% that is in the engineering sections.
So they are
That's like 100
people.
So the administrative,
laborers,
this NDC come load people here, MPP come load people there, and you go to Tor and you can have one desk, and 7 people are sitting on the
They're
desk.
not doing anything.
Doing nothing. That's
They're getting paid
something
at
we
the
need.
month.
So, you see, that's why we need to move Tamoyo Refinery away from the political cycle and the politicians. Let's introduce some private hands that has capacity to introduce funding for the revamp of Tor and operation of Tor. These private people are seen to be more efficient in their operation, and of course, government will not get that very, that opportunity to be putting on board their cronies who have no capacity to run a business of refining. Okay, but we believe that from IES, we believe that Tor can work. If a private man can bring his crude oil for Tor to crack, and they do crack, why can't we connect our upstream to this downstream?
Very well.
For 6 years and over, we've not been able to build that synergy between the upstream and the downstream. Meanwhile, we are preaching that we are going to establish a petroleum hub where you are dependent on somebody's new refinery that's not tested, and your own refinery, you are dumping it.
I see. Honorable, yes, do. Yes.
This Tor thing. I mean, we all know the historical, we're not going to go back into the historical issues with Tor. But what I see is that this government has just thrown his hands up in the air saying that, it's like Tor has failed, basically, because now, if I listen to Honorables, the thinking of the government is that a Chinese firm is building
a more efficient,
and therefore Tor will never be competitive when you look at the level of, the staff level and all that is there. So basically, it's not what, they are wow. But you did ask a very important question. With all these things that they are doing, looking for cheap oil and all that, they were doing it for all the reasons they've given, just for 2 reasons. One is to do with the exchange rate issue, being able to stabilize the currency. The other is to be able to get us cheap fuel at the pump. And so that is why they are saying that they are looking for cheap fuel out there to be able to do that. So if at the end of the day, both issues or benefits are defeated, that we're going to do this with cash, or we can do some with cash, even if we do a small percentage. I mean, do they really know what they want to achieve in the end? And then honorable member is a member of parliament. And we know what's a former parliament. I still think you are there.
Even though you don't see him at the, even though you don't see him at the coffee, you don't see him at the coffee.
You are left physically, but you are still there. You are still. Once a parliamentarian,
always a parliamentarian.
Always a parliamentarian, and I'm sure you have a.
No, it's coming back.
I shall return message in your head.
I pray it comes.
And people have done it successfully. But why can't you? You know. But he's been in parliament, so he knows the budget process. Look, Bost, Tor, all these people go through budget hearing. Okay, there may be a ministry that provides an oversight responsibility. Let's say in this case, Ministry of Energy, but the budget of all these quasi institutions of the government present their budget. The appropriation that we do is the appropriation for the entire central government and the agencies and department of government. So whatever Bost, and then these days we ran, and then he was there when this thing started, we ran what is called a program-based budget, which means that the institution, part of it is that institutions like Bost will present the programs that they will be doing against whichever monies they are getting, whether it's coming from central government or it's coming from IGFs and all that. So once the budget is been approved and done with, all these things are captured. There is nowhere in Bost's program that this idea of gold for oil was ever mentioned. Therefore,
the idea actually came after the budget was ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Therefore, if this has become the terrain of Bost now, the ministry should bring Bost to parliament. That this is what you're going to, including this should be a joint thing by the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Finance, should come to parliament and explain this. So, Honorable, Bost is doing over and above what they should be doing. It's not a speculation.
My point is that if what Bost is doing is ultra biased to the objects for which Bost was set up, then it is important that it go to parliament. But if Bost has always been in the business of buying fuel, and then what is beyond that? That is my problem. If it is doing something ultra biased to what is, then we will probably will need to. But if it is not, then I don't see how Article 181 kicks in there.
Ordinary policy is not budgeted for. It's not a program.
Yeah, so that's my issue really, because it's the budget made no provision for that. The idea came after the budget, and so I wonder how the government is funding that, because it's not in the budget.
Yeah, how government is funding it? The central bank is just a bank for government, and there are provisions in the act setting up a Bank of Ghana how much funding, and at every point in time. At every point in time, what the balance should be and all of that.
Let me go to Franklin. Or let me take Franklin.
Then it's fine. But if it is not, I really don't see how Article 181 kicks beyond.
Let me take Franklin's thoughts on the Tor, and I'll come back to conclude on this. So we close this chapter. Franklin, the discussion on the Tor, efficiency and all, what must we be doing? Do we just go, rid the place of the many people there, keep a few to run efficiently, or we should just leave Tor as it is and focus on private interests?
The Bible tells us that when you commit sins, you are forgiven 77 times, 7 times. Unfortunately, I'm not sure Tor is one of such candidates. No matter what is said about Tor, the fact that there's this government overshadowing it, superintending it, it essentially will not end up anywhere better than we want it to be. And the government should not create competition for Tor by setting up another entity, which I would liken to International Galamsey. I don't think that's not what we want. What we want is clarity and some transparency surrounding the deal, irrespective of all the virtues my good friend Hussaini has extolled. Nobody is saying the intentions are not right, but you see, government's intentions are not always the same as government's committed doings in reality.
I see. All right. Thanks so much. Just 3 seconds on this here.
Of course, Honorable Hussaini has given us the indication that we should not be looking up to toll anytime soon. But last 2 months, we should be looking at the private entity coming on stream. But then few weeks ago, the Deputy Minister, Honorable Ejapa Mensah, did say that toll will start in February.
That's few weeks from now.
February 2023. So we're hoping that by 31st or by 28th, yes, we'll see toll working as against the
I'm not saying, and I'm not indicating.
And I want you to start a countdown on restart of toll. February.
I see. So okay. So we'll do that. Honorable, the final word.
Okay. That will be a hard.
You will close it.
This thing that started. Look, we are all looking for cheap oil. We all want to stabilize our currency, but we want the right thing to be done. There are rules and laws in this country governing every public finance management activity. And it should be done that way. This government is doing a lot of things with impunity. When they have not made provision for something, they do it. When they need money, they go to contingency, they've everywhere you look in the budget, it's exactly the same thing that they're doing. If you go and look on the Ministry of Tourism budget, they have no program for a cathedral. Yes, they've been given 80-odd million for it. It's exactly the same thing. Cho has nothing.
All right.
Yeah. We have to shoot it down.
I think it's been changed. So, just 1 minute. Issa, you say just 1 minute, there we go.
I think that
I need to run, yes.
Selim, given where we were as a nation, it was important that we became creative to resolve some of our issues. And obviously, the demand and supply of US dollars, it's one of the biggest things that we have had to contend with as an economy over a while now. And so if some of those policies will come and reduce the pressure or reduce the demand for US dollars, I think what we need to do is to perfect it over time.
Very well.
Take advantage of it. So the ordinary Ghanaian who goes to the pump and goes to look for something to eat.
Well,
it's
actually fine. All right, thanks so much. This is how we conclude today's edition. This segment of the program, the Good for Oil Policy. My guests have been the Honorable Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, Deputy Finance Minister, Deputy Trade, former Regional Minister, Central Region, Nana Amoisi VII, Executive Director, Institute of Energy Security, Honorable Fuseni Issa, former Member of Parliament for Kankwe North, who has indicated that he wants to go back, and then former Member of the Finance Committee, Franklin Cudjoe, has been my guest, but he will return. Franklin Cudjoe is on the next panel. We'll take a short break. We'll return with the next panel on the school placement program. Is it a flawed system? Is it true that people are paying to get their kids or wards enrolled in top schools? If you have an experience on that, you can share that with us on our WhatsApp line 020-444-7033. 020-444-7033. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Me oba hema ekwia bwanma asante mind she konkron aha me gine Kumasi adum Franco Trading Enterprise shop number 5 ena me gina hey na wo hwese de mesia fa me ho a me ho aye fe ya na wonim se eba amamre ene amane a ye ntutu na se ne senti no nananom ene mahema me bu me mu ase ede mamu se o perfume papa laptops, television set, Franco air condition, CCTV camera, Bluetooth speakers, home theater, accessories be a wupe bia. Said ye ma bahaya me betonia ma papa, e dia koche mahemfo, ene mahema no. Na eye Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise. Phone papa, accessories papa, air condition papa, TV papa, ahimfie ene ha.
I'm indomitable.
It's been weeks of preparation and anticipation, and it all comes down to this big moment. 104 ladies and gentlemen will be vying for a chance to be the #1 spelling bee champion in Ghana. Finally, the big day is upon us. Who, out of the 104 national finalists of the spelling bee, wins the title as the spelling bee 2023 champion and gets the bragging rights? Well, City TV will bring you the live broadcast of the finals of the Spelling Bee 2023. Catch the Spelling Bee National Finals live on City TV, that's DSTV 363 and GoTV 182 at 2 p.m. on Saturday, 4th of February 2023. Follow us on Facebook at the Spelling Bee GH, on Instagram. The Spelling Bee is sponsored by Indomie and supported by the U.S. Embassy Accra, Kenya Airways, MultiChoice Ghana, Goyle, Ashesi University, Rufus Green Parks, Kellogg's, Otumfo Osei Tutu II, BNFT, Coconut Grove Hotels, City TV, and 97.3 City FM. The Spelling Bee GH. It's more than just spelling.
Think you get it right. When I read, I know. When I read, I grow.
Mido, Ghana Biana. I'm going to you about this every time I say, baby, shit. Magashi.
Junior!
I'm saying so enough for maybe the no.
Sister Cospa, it's a winning gas.
I'm using it. Why? My wife.
Down Yankanawa.
Ah, Sister Cos. Use gas. Gas ye fast, ye easy, ye convenient.
LPG, let me see your hand.
My name is Gina, and this salon is where I work.
Good morning. Good morning, dresses. You've already met your new colleague, have you?
Who brought this Kujibisi? He fell from the sky.
I'm so glad there's a man amongst you. You ladies gossip too much.
Hey, girls. Today, Madam came in with a hot, sexy guy. And they were doing lobby.
Did Madam think men don't gossip?
The grapevine lies on my lap.
I've noticed a massive decline in our daily proceeds.
I suggest we fast and pray.
The spirit, hey, Kaylabaga, told me today that I will see a man in this salon.
He said his wife is dead?
Yes, she was sick.
Hey, what sickness? Aite, it is your mother that will get leukemia. It is your mother.
I don't like what you are doing at all.
Hey, you want to fight?
Showing every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. with repeats on Friday at 10 p.m., Saturday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 12:30 p.m. The Hairdressers is sponsored by Ebony Condoms,
Yeah, welcome back to the big issue. We're live on radio 97.3 FM as well. We're also live on CityTube on YouTube, and you can join the discussion via our WhatsApp line 020-444-7030. Just going back to a discussion on the Good for Oil policy, all the issues around it, we'll try to touch on them, and the consensus is that there should be more clarity and transparency on the matters. Now, we are shifting gear. We are moving to the school placement program. Is it a flawed system? I recall in our time, headmasters would go to a particular place, central place. So you choose schools in a particular region. The carts are shared around. If you make the cart, you are choosing, etc. They said, no, that was too manual, and that left room for influence, corruption, etc. And so there was a computerized system which simplified things. You just choose your schools. There was a way it was programmed. If you made a cut, automatically you were sent to the schools. If you couldn't make the cut, you are shifted to your second choice, and that way. So we were a bit happy with it because it took out the human influence. Now we're hearing that human beings have found a way of influencing the computer system. So people now pay a lot of money to get the awards in preferred schools. Now there's also another leg of the discussion coming from the private schools. I don't know the empirical basis of that, but they say that it appears that WAEC and the computer system, etc., are not finding a way of putting the private schools in a disadvantage. They don't make the grades anymore, and they don't get the schools they choose. We don't know what that is. So we will look at that as well. To join me in the discussion is Kofi Asare, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Enoch Jetua, who is the Executive Director of the Ghana National Council of Private Schools, Kwesi Kwarteng, is spokesperson for the Ministry of Education, and Franklin Cudjoe, President of Imani Africa. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I started with you, Kofi. What's your understanding of all these matters of placement, sports being sold out to people, protocol, etc.? Has anything like that come to your notice? Have you had any experience with it? What is your thinking and understanding of what the problem is?
Morning to your audience. I think that every keen and objective observer of the space would admit with me that there's nothing new about school placement being sold by some people. It's been there for about 12 years. I've written and written and written over this issue for years. And so it's no news. Perhaps what is news today is that for typical cases of corruption, it is always difficult to establish for a typical case of corruption that involves bribe giving and then for in place or for an action. It is always difficult to establish the truth in a matter until you're able to get the bribe taker and then connect the bribe to the action for which the bribe was given. And this is what Manasseh and his group did this time around. That they gave a bribe to someone outside the system, and the person was able to change the school of the girl from a Bri Sectec to Infantiman for an amount of 11,500 or so. So, yes, we've actually managed to get evidence that in reality, what we've always known to exist, is real. What is left to ascertain is the dimension, the scope, to what extent the practice is endemic. But at least we know that what we know to exist really does exist. I think that the computerized school placement system obviously was brought on board to replace a human dominated system which we all agreed that was susceptible to corrupt practices and then influence peddling and all that. And so having a system undertake the placement was one way of ensuring that there's very, very little human involvement in the process, little room for influencing and corruption. It's been running for about 15 years. It is normal for systems to undergo review periodically. Okay, because the assumptions that underpin the introduction of the CSSPS were all not entirely true. Majority of them could have been true, but all couldn't have been true. For instance, I keep saying that I have a friend who is a systems engineer in the US, and he keeps telling me that if you digitize a system, anytime you digitize a system, bear in mind that the system itself will not purge, it will not create a clean or environment devoid of corruption. It won't purge the environment or the ecosystem of corruption. It is the human being that controls the computerized system. The integrity of the human beings that run the system is key, and not the system itself. The system is not an end to itself. It's a means to an end. But majority of whether or not corruption will be reduced, eliminated, or it will increase, depends on the human beings that operate the system. So I think that we must take advantage of all these happenings, which I see as symptomatic. These are symptoms. The real problem, the problem is not that someone went to sue the policeman. No, that's not the problem. It's a symptom of a system that we haven't interrogated systematically. Over the years, we've had governments and various GES leadership change the criteria for placement, to continue changing until it becomes more equitable and all that. There was a time we were having 30% protocol for students who were coming from the local community, 18 miles of this, 18 miles radius from the school. Moved to another era where we had limited protocols. Now we have 5% protocol to ministry, and then also 5% to school and all that. It's gone through various reviews. But all these reviews are reviews focusing on the criteria for placement. They are not systemic review. I believe that this is an opportunity for us to take a look at the system again and ask ourselves whether in the current form it is serving its purpose. So and I'll conclude by saying this.
Okay.
That every system must have accountability mechanisms, checks and balances. The system as it currently runs for Category A schools runs on the basis that only 2 people have access to placement in Category A schools, the minister and then the GES Director General. I didn't mention the CSSPS coordinator.
So the coordinator himself doesn't have access to the system?
The minister and the GES Director General. Since 2018, this has been the case. So the issue is that if the 2 highest authorities in the education sector are those that are the only ones that have direct access to the system for placing Category A students, who will exercise oversight? Because there must be checks and balances. No one can check the minister because he is the highest checker at that level. So we need to look at the system again and create accountability system such that the minister will have a basis to come in and exercise oversight on work done by the CSSPS, for which reason the minister cannot be the one. Exactly. It blurs checks and balances.
But the bigger concern really for me, in terms of these 2 persons having the access, is, so if they are the only 2 people having the access, who then is able to make the changes? Because we hear that...
Only the 2 can make the changes. But the fact is that...
So your child is given a certain school, you go to pay, they change it for you. So it means that change is known or should be known just by the 2, or it's between the 2 people?
Yes, only the 2 people. But we are talking in technical sense, the 2 people. But in reality, I know that the Free Senior Secretariat, more or less, to a higher extent, exercise the minister's discretion. And then the minister will sign off. So he signs off before the Free Senior Secretariat will do most of those placements. The DG also, I'm not too sure about that, but maybe he will give it to maybe the CSSPS, which is a department under him, or his secretariat. I don't know, but they are the ones who have the password. The point I want to make is that once they have the password, they are held responsible. And the minister rightly said in Manasseh's documentary that the reason why we are only 2 people having access to the password for Category A schools is because we know those schools are high stakes. And should there be any systemic error, it should be easy for you to hold someone to account, identify where the fault is coming from. So because we are only 2, it is very easy. That's why we agree that only the 2 of us will have access. So when there's a problem, you go to the 2. No one is saying that the minister is the one who sold that change in placement to the lady at Ebri Sectec, who successfully paid 11.5 through Manasseh's group and then got a placement at Infantiman. No one is saying that. Because if you understand in reality how the system works, the minister will receive 5%. Let's say a school like PRESEC. PRESEC will admit about 1,500. So 5% will protocol. Okay?
That's 75.
That's 75. So the minister will receive a list of 75 people from PRESEC. These are our protocol guys. Place them. The minister is obliged to do that. That's all. It's because the placement is not based on your results. You are a Ghanaian, your results are correct, everything. They place them. If anyone at Presec, and I'm only saying this in hypothetically, if anyone at Presec took money from someone and added their children or their wards to the list, the minister may not know. In fact, if I were the minister, I wouldn't know. No one would know. Okay, so it is overly simplistic to assume that the minister knows about how the how money is exchanged hands. No, because he's dealing with protocol allocations from about 70 or so category A schools. 72 category A schools. And if each school is having an average of 1,000 or 1,000 people being admitted, you are talking about close to about 100,000 people. I mean, close to about 1,200 people being admitted. You are talking about close to 12,000 people being given protocol slots. It's not easy to know that. That is the situation we find ourselves in. So for us, the best thing to do is that I know the minister by now would have taken second thoughts or a dim view about his direct involvement in this. And I'm sure the minister will be happy to now sit back and allow the Ghana Education Service, undertake the placement. The DG supervises the computerized school placement secretariat, and then you do it according to the criteria that has been agreed upon. Then the minister comes in to the picture periodically to exercise oversight, ensuring that the placement is going on per the policy. If the minister receives his protocol list, the 5% protocol list for the ministry. So if the minister receives the protocol list from all national level stakeholders, all he has to do is to send the list to the DG, and then it will be done. Because the protocol is not illegal, it is part of the policy. That's all. So I don't think that the minister will be happy to be involved in not that this year, but in future ones, so that his involvement will be at the point of ensuring that there is compliance, there's checks, there's some balances within the system, and most importantly, quality assurance, is upheld.
Very well. Let me come to you, Enoch. So you are with the private schools. What's the concern from your side? Is this situation that we've painted, Kofi has painted? Did you share the same view? What was the concern from your side?
All right. Good morning to your cherished viewers and then the private schools fraternity. It's the same concern that we also share, but on our part, we have some specific issues that we can talk of. We can talk of the general scheme of work that is undermining the educational rights of children in the private education space. And let me take my analysis from that point of the legal basis.
Yes, okay.
The 1992 Constitution, Article 25, Clause 1B, actually enshrines on educational rights for each and every child to be given fair access to, let's say, facilities, and then that of the programs that are being run in the schools. And private schools are also operating within the same mandate. The Article 25, Clause 2 also gives us the right to, let's say, give education to Ghanaian children. And so for that matter, parents who have decided to enroll their children in the private schools are not wrong. It is a constitutional mandate given to an individual to set up schools in Ghana. So in realizing that the stakeholders within the educational fraternity have agreed on how best each and every one will be able to accelerate from one point of educational ladder to another point. That is, how will you be able to move from the transitional period between the JHS education to that of the senior high school education. And that is the reason why we write BEC examination. And in fact, when you read from the West African Examination Council, a regulatory document regulating the conduct of BEC 2015, it is very clear that within the eligibility column, you need to have at least been within the sector within 9 years before you can write. Okay. So it's presumed that before you sit as a candidate to write for any exams, the school has really prepared you adequately and you are ready to go through the mill. We have categorized our senior high schools from category A up to category, let's say, E and F. of which the category A schools are reverse schools, of which represent the true nature of identities in Ghana at the international front. When President Kufuor came, decided to add certain numbers. So as we speak now, we have about 72 schools within the 1,000 senior high schools that are classified as category A schools. And before you can get to that school, you need to meet certain merits. Metrics have been set up for you to meet. You cannot just say that I've completed SS and for that matter, I'm going there. So parents who decide or who desire that their children will go to those schools obviously look for, let's say, schools that can prepare their children foundational ways so that they can get it. And then that's why parents send their children to private schools. Government has realized that, okay, private schools are getting a lot of access. Most of the category A schools facilities are being enjoyed by private schools because of quality education being given at the private education front. And instead of government to actually look at how best to remedy the situation, then government introduces a policy called 30%. You know, when Kofi was speaking, he was saying that there has been a form of review, catchment area, 5% protocols and all that. Government has now decided that if you attend a public school, you have that edge of 30% allocation to category A schools.
Okay.
So the practical example is that your ward, my ward will sit for exams. Your ward is in the public school, or your ward is in the private school, my ward is in the public school. When they sit for the exams, and they've all chosen to be in, let's say, Yasanto, of which is a category A school, my ward, for being in the public school, will be given advantage. Yes. For
if they got the same grade, your ward will be taken.
Yes.
Because your ward attended a
yes.
public school.
And even if not the same grade, because of that 30% allocation. So you will realize that majority of the private schools children who have gone to have spent time, parents have paid money, and they've gotten what the state is looking for, are being denied the category A schools. And if you ask the government will tell you that we are looking for, let's say, equity and all. But you cannot come out with equity with a certain standard to lower the bar. So what is happening now is that if you look at this placement being sold and all that, it hinges on the fact that the category A schools are having that kind of standard. And the public school allocation given to them, they are not able to meet that. Because, for instance, a school would declare 1,005 allocation. The 30% of it is being given to public schools. And in reality, the results that are coming from the public schools are not meeting those standards. So that kind of 30% allocation will be reserved for market people, so that everybody can go there and buy. And that is what is happening.
So the public schools are unable to meet the 30%?
Because the category A schools are seated on a certain level. They are not just category A school. Before a school is being graded as category A school, there are certain philosophies, certain, let's say, programs that they do, of which you have to get, let's say, 9 ones, 11, let's say 9 ones, 6
but
ones.
But the 30% allocation to the public schools will seek to lower the grades or the result they get compared to that of the private. So, for example, if the private guy gets 8 ones and the public guy gets maybe just 6 ones, the two of them could go.
Yes.
The cutoff point originally could be 8 ones.
Yes.
But the guy in the public school, because of the 30% allocation, with 6 ones, he could go.
Yeah, but if you have checked the trend very well, you realize that all these guys that were able to go through the system, dubious means to get they
use that 30% allocation.
To buy and get this allocation were coming from private schools. You ask Manas Azuri.
Because they have the money.
Not even in the sense that they have gotten their grade, which obviously is supposed to have been placed them in that school. But because of that barrier, they were not given their category A schools.
Okay.
So therefore, they would just look for means. And obviously, there are locations over there. When you go to the category A schools, the public schools have not been able, because, yes, we have given you 30% allocation. The 30% allocation that has been given to you, you need to meet certain, let's say,
minimum criteria.
And the public schools are not meeting it. But that 30% is there. So therefore, it becomes a business venture for other people. You understand? So if you go through the system very well to uphold, or let's say to abolish this kind of canker in our system, that 30% allocation, which obviously is discriminatory against the children in the private school, supposed to be scrapped out. In that sense, then we will have a fair playground to, let's say, work on. Because we were of the view that if government obviously can come out and give, let's say, 30% allocation to their public schools, then it means that even behind the scenes, the marking scheme could be even different.
How? So that when you are given a private school script, you'll be told that this is a private school, so mark it with iron hands.
Because government obviously has accepted the fact that.
But it's not far-fetched. So government will say, okay, you guys marking category, you guys marking private schools.
It's possible.
If the marking scheme, if let's say the pass marking,
it is possible because if you look at
the private guys, make it 60.
If you look at the kind of data that we are receiving from our schools, a child will be able to get science 1, RME 1, social studies, which is basically a reading subject 1, RME, which is also 1. But in English, the child will get about 8.
8?
Yes.
Not even 2 or 3.
I'm telling you. So you ask yourself that.
But maybe the English is technical. English, they look at your subject.
No.
Social studies and
we understand it.
These are 3 religions.
We understand it. We understand that. And even if you also compare that to the kind of data that we have, because the child has been with us for almost 9 years. This child, you can obviously predict that this child is.
Do you have the avenue where you can call for some results and sit on it, or can you call for remark? Is there that avenue?
There is a challenge at the remark session.
So you can't recall a script.
You know, WAEC in their own regulation stated that you can call for remark within 60 days when the release is given, but the time frame for adjudication and let's say review is not there. The people who panel to do the remark are the same WAEC people. I don't know whether you understand it.
I get it, but it is not to, let's say, correct a particular script per se, but it is to make the point you're making. So maybe the person is going to.
But you City TV,
yes.
You are moderating this program. You've done something to me. I'm not happy with it. And I'm calling for a review, or let's say a fair playground for us to discuss it. It is the same City TV people panel people.
The markers are different from the officials of.
Oh, they are all WAEC.
The markers are teachers.
They are all WAEC paid people.
Yes, but they are teachers, and they take up this extra job. And I'm not sure WAEC
what you are trying to say is that
put their neck on the line.
What we are trying to say
for
is
something.
What we are trying to say is that 1, fairness is done there. If in time. You see, when you ask the same WAEC people, because you apply, whom are you applying to? You apply to WAEC. So it is WAEC that will decide that, okay, this is the time frame that we are going to. And don't forget that we are running this educational transition within a certain period of time. So before a child can go through this system and come out with a remark, let's say, credentials or report, that time period has already elapsed.
Yes.
Because the children on which they've completed the school with that child, they've gone to school.
Yes, so I'm saying that for now, that remarking process may not be to affect the child, because the child is suffered it, is gone to school. But moving forward, you want to correct it. So if you call for remark, it may take months. The child will have gone to school. But you have evidence to make your point. So that in the following year, I see Kofi shaking his head. We'll come back to that. Let me talk to Kwesi Kwarteng, who is on the line, and we'll okay. So I hear he's gone off. Franklin is still on. So Franklin, I mean, interesting discussion. I don't know whether you've had any experience yet with the computer placement program. Is it time for us to review it? And what format should the review take?
Well, except what I hear from the news, really, that the system is up for. I mean, the system has challenges, and that people are trying to exploit it. Look, I mean, the only reason why this placement system came about, is simply because people want to get into better schools or the best schools. Shouldn't the policy rather be focused on creating or establishing schools that are almost at par with all these A schools. I mean, I know that will take a while to do, but if every region, if there was any conscious effort at ensuring that at least every region has a number of schools that people can say, okay, look, these are schools that we all look up to, or probably making sure that all the other schools are brought up to some appreciable level of, in terms of infrastructure and what have you, teachers, good quality teachers, I'm sure this problem would even fizzle away. I mean, that's not to say that there are no competitive systems in placing people in any part of the world, but where it is being gained, and in this part of our world, only because special attention is focused on a certain category of schools called aid schools. Definitely, you have all these challenges coming up one way or the other. I mean, I think it's about time we decided that food decentralization means what exactly it is. That we decentralize, and we shouldn't just let the government be the one dictating which schools are best or not. At least we should encourage private sector people to go into providing good education, like my good friend Enoch and his people are trying to do. They shouldn't be penalized. I mean, they should just ensure that there's a lot more of such schools that people would be willing to have their awards go to. Because come what may, this system definitely is not. I mean, we are trying to make sure we equalize access for everybody, but in doing so, we're actually not ensuring that everybody is getting access, and that's the problem. I think we should invest in ensuring that schools have some appreciable level of quality in terms of teachers and in terms of infrastructure. Otherwise, this problem is not going to go away. I mean, I'm surprised.
That's a bit of long term. I know in President Kufuor's time, he started this thing about taking one school, is it in a district, in a region, some schools, and bringing them up to a certain standard. I don't know how much of a raise those schools have been given. I don't know whether those schools now can be called Category A schools. I'm not sure. But that's the kind of thing that you're talking about. And that takes time to do. That really takes time to do. But we have the traditional schools, the Fancy Pims, the Presex, the Wesley Girls, which are schools a lot of the middle class people want their children to attend. And that is where the problem is. So yes, what you're saying is good. Maybe the two can be worked on, at the same time, I mean concurrently or simultaneously, so that, these ones will also be growing. I mean, in the next 10 years or so, when there are results and things show that they are indeed now Category A schools, this difficulty will be eased. You disagree?
Well, the point really is that, I mean, we are not expecting pupils to be failing all the time. I mean, with time, people's exams records will be much better. And if they are better, and if they are getting good tuition, assuming they are, and getting within a certain level of infrastructure, then we are going to get a lot more pupils who will be passing and who will then have to go through this very system in order to be placed in very limited Category A schools. My point is, why don't you just keep on, or why don't you expand access, even with the Category A schools? If we want to accommodate quite a lot, then maybe we should focus on expanding access there as well, right? Otherwise, there's no really immediate solution to fixing this. Even if we try using this, if we try making the system very difficult to gain, as I said, a lot more people will be passing anyway. So what happens to the number of schools that everybody wants to get into? Yeah.
Yes, it is a big issue. We are looking at the school placement issues. Earlier in the week, there was a report, an investigative report, which confirmed what many have actually suspected, that there's some exchange of money for placements. I don't know if it's not butter. We just finished a butter discussion on oil, but that is a problem. That is corruption. The other leg of the discussion is that private schools feel hard done by, because they say that because of a certain quota system, 30% quota system allocated to the public schools, a lot of their people now suffer. And they even go to the extent of thinking that the marking scheme could be harsher to the private schools. I don't think they have any empirical basis for that. But I would take Kofi Asari's view on that. Kofi, you think it's a far-fetched suggestion to have that, the marking scheme, even for the private schools, could be different compared to the public?
Well, I think that is I don't think they have any evidence. So that perception is built on suspicion. I won't say mere suspicion, but perhaps, suspicion. But I am rather happy to have data that we can scientifically, interrogate. I want to see the private schools undertake a research, for instance, to establish the correlation between the results of their candidates, of their students in Form 3, especially the mock exams that is taken. Okay. And then strike a correlation between that and then their BEC performance. Okay, and then we will be able to establish the correlation between the two to see the extent to which the mock examination results vary. That can be one. But let me indicate that. Let me talk about this. You see, the 30% allocation to public schools isn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
But it appears that in our bid to make the system much more equitable, we are actually discriminating against Ghanaian children. I am the foremost advocate of equitable quality education in this country. I wake up, I walk, I sleep, I eat, I drink, I bath equity in basic education. But you see, in a country where you have 30% of your children attending private schools, where close to 70% of those schools are low-cost private schools, majority of which are schools that are existing in communities that government has been unable to establish public schools in. The reason they are low cost. On what basis do you call a low-cost primary school like a school called ECG in Aboboloshi, where they pay 2 cedis a day as school fees, where the schooling takes place in a church, where there is no single trained teacher, where the teacher salary is less than 400 Ghana cedis? You want to call that school a private school, and then match that student to a student of Association International School? Is that what you want to do? No. So I am of the view, and USAID did a report in the Northern Region in 2019. In 17 districts in the Northern Region, 64% of private schools were low cost. This is not Accra. It means that even at the district level, many private schools are a matter of necessity because Northern Ghana is one of the most underserved regions in education. The schools are not there. So private schools are existing there to provide an opportunity for children in those communities who unfortunately have education underserved. So how do you treat such students as if they had the choice to attend the low-cost private schools that they attended? You understand? So if you have 30% allocation going against them, then contrary to Article 25 of the Constitution, which says that access to educational opportunities shall not be discriminated against. Educational opportunities and facilities should not be on the basis of discrimination. Then you are discriminating against children who are attending low-cost private school. In my area where I used to previously live in Oyibi, there's only one public school in Oyibi Presby. All the schools there are private schools. So one of my security men, his child was attending a private school, not because he wanted them to. No, but the only school there, if you don't get Oyibi Presby, you are not in school. To work. The only school there is Oyibi Presby, and it's even running a shift system morning, afternoon as of now. So there's no school there, and the classroom is about 83 per class.
Wow. So
that everyone there is looking for a school to enroll their children, and there are low-cost private schools there where you pay 100, 150, 200 cedis a term school fees. Low cost. Do you want to tell me that you want to apply this 30% protocol to public schools and then disadvantage these students? Because the standards which they are teaching, they are being taught in, they are learning in, is far lower
Even
than the
at the
standards
public
in the
school,
public schools. Far lower. They don't have trained teachers. Because the salaries of their teachers is not more than 500 cedis. But the trained teachers in the public schools are taking averagely 2,000. So we must be sure, we must be careful not to create problems in our bid to solve same. Now, on the issue of the WAEC issue, of WAEC and the remarking, you see, we have been saying every day that our assessment sector is facing a governance crisis. The systems in the assessment sector of our educational sector are not accountable systems. They defy the basic principles in public sector governance. And I'll just go straight to the point. If you go to other countries, OECD countries, education flagships, if you go to a country like the UK, their assessment system has a regulator, just like every country I know. There's always a regulator of the assessment system, the sector. This regulator will set standards for bodies like WAEC, NAPTEX, and all other assessment bodies in Ghana, and then regulate compliance, sanction non-compliance. When a student or a school is aggrieved or feels unfairly treated or marked down in an examination, what do you do in the case of the UK and Wales is that you apply, England and Wales, is that you apply to the schools, the examination board, in this case WAEC. Yeah. WAEC will do the remarking, the WAEC in that country, which is the examining board. If it's Cambridge, Cambridge. If they do the remarking and you are not satisfied about the outcome, you apply to OFQUAL, which is the Office of Qualification and Assessment. OFQUAL is the regulator.
Yeah.
Then they will appoint external reviewers to review the script for you. You understand? That is what exists in every country. In our country,
we just have WAEC.
We have established WAEC to be self-regulatory. So WAEC is accountable to a board, and on the board sits government. The thing is the Director General. Yeah. On the board sits government, okay? And apart from that, there is no regulatory agency regulating the affairs of not just WAEC, but other assessment bodies in Ghana, including Cambridge. Cambridge is in Ghana.
Yeah.
IB, Cambridge, NAPTEX, and all these agencies are undertaking assessment, but there's no regulator. So when a student feels unfairly treated or marked down, and they have to appeal and apply for a review of the appeal, they have to do same to, in the mind of the student, their oppressor. How possible is that? So I will re-emphasize that we need an independent regulator of Ghana's assessment sector space, so that standards, international standards, if you go to WAEC's website, WAEC says that its aim is to undertake examination consistent with the British standards. That's what is written on WAEC's website. So by getting an external regulator or independent regulator for the assessment sector, it will be empowering WAEC to undertake assessments that are consistent with the British standard, because such accountability mechanisms, such checks and balances that are missing in Ghana's assessment system, but available in the British standards in Australia and all other countries that we seek to match with, will not be available for WAEC, so that everybody will be happy. I'm not saying that WAEC has marked anyone down, but what I'm saying is that they are not in a position to ensure that there's a fair hearing, because they can't be the referee and be the captain.
Even though the teachers, do I call them contract?
The markers, but they are their markers. Okay, but what I'm saying, I didn't say that their markers are not fair. Yeah. No, what I'm saying is that in other jurisdictions, their markers will be the first line to do the first line of reviewers. But if the school or the candidate is still not happy after their markers have done the remarking,
then they have a place to go.
You have a place to go, which is the regulator, OFQUAL. Apply to OFQUAL. In our case, you have no place to go.
No place to go. You go to WAEC. Go back
yes.
to WAEC.
Now, on the senior high school issue, I believe I agree with Franklin Kujo that yes, middle class, they want their children to go to top schools and all that. The country is growing. The middle class is expanding. So the demand for certain commodities keeps increasing, especially education served middle to high level education, high class education. And that's what we have in a level of private schools and also category A schools. It's fair. But you see, I'm one of those who doesn't entirely believe that establishing a new school and putting in place facilities similar to PRESEC will let someone change their mind.
Yes,
No.
It comes with time.
I was here when President Kufuor started his model school. I was in Chufpraso when Chufpraso Senior High School was built. I think I was part of them. Go and find out those who want to go there. There's everything in the school. There's everything there. Yeah. Even the new Bahama blocks, E blocks.
Yeah, E blocks.
Go to Adenta. There's one there.
Yeah.
It is less than a kilometer from. Let me go to Adenta one first. It's less than a kilometer from Was. It's less than a kilometer from Was. Who will go there when Was is there? Meanwhile, the facilities there, the Was cried, Omunibi.
Yeah.
So it is not the simple situation where you build a school, the facilities, and then I will take my child there because you are calling the school category A school. No. And again, there's a school called St. James in Sunyani. That's the best senior high school in Ghana. For the past 10 years. Consistent WASSCE performance. I'm told that this WASSCE, there are 2 boys who featured in the maths and science and maths quiz were the 2 best students.
Wow.
They have that school is the best senior high school in Ghana for the past 10 years. But go to PRESEC. 40,000 people want to enter PRESEC. 40,000 have applied to go to PRESEC this year. By now, go to that school.
Nobody is there.
Nobody wants to go. So you see, what drives the demand for category A is not about facilities. It is the tradition.
The tradition.
It is in view of that, because you can build a school similar to Oxford University or University of London. Build it on twice the size of land that Oxford occupies. By the time you finish, the name Oxford missing alone, nobody will go.
Yeah.
So, to cure this, I have recommended this to the Minister of Education. I've had extensive discussion.
Hold on with the recommendation. I'll take a short break.
Okay.
I'll return and then we'll look at the recommendations that Kofi Asare has. We'll hear from from Enoch on whether indeed that correlation or thing that Asare talked about, they've done that. And we hear from Franklin Kujo as well, then we can call it a day. This is the big issue. We'll be right back.
It's City on the Go. You don't have to miss any of your favorite television and radio shows on City TV and City FM. Enjoy thrilling content from your world of great television and relevant radio at your convenience. Subscribe to CityTube on YouTube. Turn on your notification button and receive prompts on our live streaming sessions and new content uploads. For easy access to the CityTube page, scan the barcode on your screens. Subscribe to the CityTube page and voila! Unlimited content awaits you. Don't forget to subscribe to CityTube for amazing content from City TV and City FM.
Yeah, welcome back to the big issue. We are on 97.3 City FM, obviously on TV, on CityTube, on YouTube as well. We're looking at the school placement program. We're asking whether it's a flawed system or not. It's obviously the system requires some changes or some reviews. My guest, Franklin Kujo, Kofi Asare, and Ogjetua, and then Kwesi Kwarteng, who could not join us, but we're still hoping to have him respond to some of the issues. Yes, Kofi Asare, you're making an interesting point, and you said you had some recommendations for the minister.
Yeah, I believe that one way to reduce the pressure on category A schools, leading to most of these, corruption issues, is to, instead of building new schools, focus on expanding existing ones.
Those ones which are expandable.
If you go to Infantry, before this government came, Wesley Girls was doing about only 700. It was one of the smallest senior high schools in Ghana. And the government expanded it to, I think, about 1,002 or so.
But that will also have an effect on the quality, won't it?
You're not telling me that Wesley Girls is a good school because they are few. You understand?
Yeah.
One
But
of the
number. Okay, go ahead.
One of the key ingredients or canons you find in this category A schools is the way they are managed. Is the way they are managed. And so if we agree that the management is what to a higher extent distinguishes them, because they may not have grade A facilities. Some of them are very old schools, not new, they don't have modern facilities. It's because of the way they are managed. If that's the case, then expand the schools so that they can still benefit from that quality management while doubling the size or tripling the size of Butchie under the same management. So build 3 butcheries around Butchie under the same management so that the quality of management will affect, let's say, 15,000 people instead of 5,000 people. Is that like University of London?
Yeah.
You understand? If you do that, you will be tripling the intake into Butchie from, let's say, 1,005 to 4,500 per stream. But Butchie will be bigger. Same to PSEC. If you can find land, expand PSEC, double or triple PSEC. So you have a situation where our category A schools will be having bigger student populations. Then you can create decentralized management units. You understand? Because the management is there. You can create decentralized management units. Then the school will benefit from the quality management. If you do it that way, if I am applying for my child to go to PSEC, I won't ask you, is the PSEC going
having capacity to
the old one? No, the same Legom they're going. Is it the old building at the hotel or no? It is PSEC.
Yeah. If management.
Yes, if we use this approach for the category A's, we will solve this problem significantly, and then also expand access to the TVET schools. The category A schools in TVET, almost all of them are day schools. Takrady Technical Institute, Tematech, KTI, ATTC. Out of this 3 are virtually day. You understand? If you want to drive more traffic towards this category A school, because people want to go to these schools, expand access by creating accommodation facilities and make them boarding and make those schools bigger than they are. ATTC has no accommodation facilities. So people can travel from other regions and come there. So that it reduces the pressure on the lower category schools.
Very well. Let me hear from you. Yes, you said you did some correlation. What did the results say?
Okay, so
quickly, yes.
When you come to the private schools, before a child will sit for the BEC, we have about 6 mocks, at least, that the child will write. And even relying on the mock that we write together with the government at the district level, you realize that the data that we have received so far proves to the point that private school children, especially mathematics and science and English, are leading. When you can go to the district education office and get the data from. So there's a reliable data that proves the point that we can question the kind of results that WAEC has released towards to our children, because we've been with them for a number of 9 years and we know their performances. And before the introduction of this 30% allocation, we were not having such challenges. You sit for your exams, you get your marks, and then you go to your category A school or a school of your choice. But when the introduction came in, this policy was introduced, that is where, somewhere 2018, that is where we began this kind of, experiencing this kind of challenges, and then we have questioned the release of the scripts. Because don't forget that the private schools, they pay for the entry sitting. Before you sit for the BEC, the private schools are being charged. So we've requested for the release of the scripts, because it is only the release of the scripts that we can do the analysis from. You've marked someone, you've taken the script, you've just come out with grading systems and other marks. We are not happy with the script. Release the script to us. Therefore, it's not WAEC alone that has that kind of ability to assess exams, because the question or the test items comes with marking schemes. So whoever has gone through, let's say, assessment, preparation and all that can do the analysis and know that this one the child has passed, this one the child couldn't get the answer. Just give us the list of the scripts together with the raw score so that we can compare and contrast and know that whatever the data that we are having is filtered or is not, we are not getting the script. So whom should we blame? You understand? So I side with Kofi when Kofi was saying that the WAEC setup is a referee, a footballer, a linesman, a coach, a keeper, and everything. So when you go to the field, you are just a spectator. You can't say anything. And even if you want to go through that, you want to test it along the side of the court. We have other cases which we can cite, Awuni versus WAEC. Yeah. The time the case was, let's say, given the verdict, the time has elapsed. Yeah. Those students couldn't join their counterparts whom they were going through. So if you even read the WAEC, let's say, remarking clauses in their regulation, it's just about 60 days that you can apply. There's no time limit for it to complete. That is the point. So it's a discretionary to them that, okay, this one, we will drag it for 2 years and the child will be sitting home. So we understand the fact that in terms of long-term analysis and long-term, let's say, projections, we can go through that mail and then get a hold of certain document or data or facts to back it, our allegations.
But look, I will advise you guys to exercise your RTI.
But you are even at the top. And
they are talking about the results.
Yes, okay.
I think you can exercise your RTI.
Yeah, the right to information.
Your RTI rights.
Yes.
And then, I'm sure WAEC should respond to that.
Very well.
Because I don't think that is data subject to data protection.
Yes. Well, and it's your own, your students' own
exactly,
data. The students,
yeah, but to get it. You
wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to touch on just a brief one on the low-cost private schools. Yeah. Data available, Kofi, is 70% of the 22,000 private schools in Ghana are classified as low-cost private schools from the MIS data, not the data from us. MIS data, Education Management Information Data, 2020. That is why when
that 30% obviously will not be fair on this low-cost.
I'm telling you.
I see. Very well. I think the point is made. Franklin, just 2 seconds. I mean, a lot has been said.
We should avoid gaming in the system and creating opportunities for people to game the system. What we've designed and the protocols and what have you is a perfect opportunity to game the system. I still maintain that we should expand access to whatever category A schools, but crucially decentralize the development of this country and make it easy and make it easy for quality teachers to go to where good schools have been located.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks so much for your time this morning. So that's our show for today. My guests have been Franklin Cudjoe, just heading President of Imani Africa, Kofi Asare, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch, and Nogjetu, Executive Director, Ghana National Council of Private Schools, and we couldn't have Kwesi Kwarteng. Thanks so much for doing the listening and the viewing. My name is Selom Adonu. Catch you some other time again, or catch you next week, actually, for another exciting edition of The Big Issue. Have a good afternoon.
Finally, January is over. I mean, that long month is finally over. Now we have moved to the month of February, the month of scams, where every babe, I miss you, Bia, is 1K. Hey! February. A teacher of mine calls it February. Hey, by the way, the new year, new me, Fono. How are you all doing? I mean, the sound of my laughter is annoying to me. I don't know if you're also annoyed, like it's annoying. We are only in the second month of the year, and I can tell many of you have already forgotten you had resolutions for the new year. Is it the indiscipline on your part, or it is the fact that Akpe has shown you? You know Akpe. New year, come now, Charlie, come and see people. This is my year of this. This is my year of that. This is my year of this. No, people have planned to do this. It's good anyway. I also planned 2 years ago to learn a new language, particularly Ga. But Charlie, it's not going as planned. So far, I can say 3 solid Ga words, and it's none of what you think. No, it's not. My favorite Ga words, right? The first one is Hewale. Hewale. I love the sound of Hewale. EL has a song where I hear Hewale. Hewale. A number of times. I love Hewale. I'm told it means strength. The meaning is even more beautiful. And I love the sound of Hewale. My second favorite Ga word, I don't know if I've ever told you before, it's Minshe. My goodness. Again, I love the sound of that word Minshe. And the meaning is even more profound to me. Minshe is happiness. Now, there was a young girl who is now a big woman, where we used to live at Asylum Down. She was cute and bubbly, plump. Her name was Minshe. I loved her demeanor. Like I said, smallish, plump, but she always had this face. You know, that kind of face. My last favorite Ga word is Twi. You know, Twi. Yeah. If you say that in Twi, and I don't know why people can't say tree, they always say Twi. If you say that in Twi or ever, it might sound like flatulence, like Twi. But actually, Twi in Ga is hard. Such a sweet word. It only sounds funny in other jurisdictions. So, in Twi is my heart. So when you hear people say Twi blau, a Twi blau, literally that means slow down your heart, take it easy, calm down. In Twi pa. Now that one is my favorite. In Twi pa. Come on. Now the pano, I'm not saying it well, I think, but in Ga, or something like that, is thread. So if you have you put thread in the nail, is right? So if you say in Twi pa, then it means you are saying someone is the thread of your heart is a combination of threads, and that person is you understand? In Twi pa, the cord of your heart, or something like that. Now this month is the month of love. Before you go around telling somebody, me pay me small, or you are in Twi pa and those things, you should know that the gold for Waire has not reduced fuel prices in any way. No, guys, listen, what we rather see is an increase in fuel prices. So by all means, spread the love, right? Share the link to your intrigue. But know that if she lives at Kaswa, Bechile, Atadeka, something, Lau for you be that. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. This is Backpage on City TV, and my name is Caleb Kuda. 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I told you City TV has moved from number 11, Dr. Martin Loop, to Ola Anson Lane in Tessana. But some of you didn't believe me, all right? You see, I said, look, my favorite part of this new premise is the washroom. Charlie, the place is soundproof. I'm telling you. Like, you can do Intrigue by there, and everything will download. You know, and it's a cashless system. The moment you enter the place now, then the lights go just burning. Man, we didn't come here to play. No, it go on. It's in the B. So we have left Zanetta Rollins at Clote Coleuse. I've forgotten already. We are now with this man.
It adds to the value of the constituency and the community because city is a big establishment. 2, I'm sure most of you would want to relocate and live around us. It goes to help owners of property to earn some rental income from you. 3, job opportunities. 4, it also enhances the economy of the community. Those who sell around, those who trade around, the schools around, and what have you, the financial institutions around. They're all going to benefit from you. Now you don't have to drive all the way to Adabraka to do banking or to buy your kinky or your fish. We all have beautiful spots around the community to serve you.
No, it's funny how things work, right? Because you remember some time ago, I said I really liked how Patrick Boama carried himself at the vetting committee. You remember that, right? I said my only disappointment was the fact that when his peers were in the battlefield, in the boxing ring, fighting for the honor and dishonor of their various political parties, he was missing in action. I mean, they were trading blows. You have forgotten, it's an epic moment in the momentous moment of Parliament. It was meeting in action. But yeah, Patrick Boama is now our MP. Patrick. Yeah. He says our relocation here will bring business, which is true. There is a place here called Jehovah is My Boyfriend or something like that. People go there to buy food, and also one day, I went there. It's a decent place, fairly. I went to buy some fufu, then somebody just from nowhere just jumped on me. I was like, yo, who's this embarrassing me? If it were a girl cried and good thing, the sad party was some guy. Somebody's father, it was all of him like, yo, he didn't even allow me to pay for the fufu. Bro, that's other people, man. You're amazing. Thank you for the reception. If you see me around, you should know that I am here. Just that I need a barbering shop close. I had to drive all the way to Adabraka to have this. Honorable, please give me Honorable's picture and let me tell him something. Honorable, you were talking about rent, you see? The rent you were talking about. 2 years ago, I tried to come and look for rent in this neighborhood. When I heard the rates that they were even taking for 2 years, intrigue back goes bust, Charlie. Intrigue. To be honest, rent in Accra is crazy. And I completely agree with this young lady when she was very mad, upset on social media, talking about the outrageous rent regime in Accra and by extension many parts of the country. In fact,
because he has me engine 6 months in 1 year. Se si ade wo ye adwuma me fiera wo be boaboa no busumi pay a de be ma say 600 or say 700 you have to eat only small one pay because a whole month no pay enti baka wo ho abe den wo ma hwe bibi ye o wo ma hwe bibi ye wo man mu ampani fo mo nka ho asem hwe na youth for ne ye bre na ye kunkum ye anyhow a direct inti ye be di ponti no wo be komo ye kun go be come ye kunti youth no nti ye bra no munhu e dan sem e kunye adai how Ghana ye black papa adai and the fiera walk in encourage say me patcho me pedai mod be because who agent viewing fees so do coach them obeju 80 cedis and now say 100 cedis and then dan so man dan unkuta 600 unya single room name or due 2 years 600 cedis 2 years because of that into the uti modada no ono no person o 2 now or do for the show on 600 500
sure asoba say it again no I say it again. The rent thing is really killing us. It's really killing us. Maybe I should speak well. I mean, if you are not engaging in some dubious business or your parents didn't leave you some property in Accra, Charlie, or you are not, making any insane profits due to access to and all you do is a decent work in Accra. If all you do is decent work in Accra, Charlie, some indecent accommodation you will come by at some indecent rates, and nothing is more annoying than the agents who will take 10% of what you're supposed to pay for the rent. Like, yo, so you're paying 10,000 and you're paying agent 1,000 Ghana cedi. Yo, where am I supposed to get that money from? They will take money and tell you they are taking you to some nice place. Out of 5 places they will take you to, all will not be decent. And then the last one that is almost looking like decent, What they will tell you is the rent for 1 month. That you have to pay for 2 years advance. 2 years advance. Charlie. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. And the landlords who increase rent by 3, they increase, by hearts in 3. Panoni of your. You'll be there now, then 50% increase. Then they give you 2 weeks, you pay or you pack out. Wow. Like, what be that? It's so wrong. Yo, Charlie, it's so wrong, man. It's so wrong. So wrong. Now, you remember the NPP promised in their manifesto to pay rent to landlords so that young people can pay the rent to government back small, right? Like you remember that one. So Dr. Kwabena Bawumia, he has launched the government rent for cash or something like that.
The scheme's implementation will initially commence in 5 regions: Greater Accra, Ashanti, Western, Eastern, and Bono East regions. As the Minister for Works and Housing has said, these were chosen based on the basis of where the most pressure on rent advance is. But the scheme will be rolled out to all 16 regions of Ghana in due course. In partnership with the private sector, and this is one of the novelties of the scheme, because government is working in partnership with the private sector. The scheme will provide low-interest loans to eligible Ghanaians to enable them pay rent in advance. These loans will be repaid monthly.
Okay, guys, don't get me wrong. If this works, it will be really good, okay? First thing is that this government rent for cash, whatever it is an admission that we have failed to regulate the rent regime. In my mind, it's an official endorsement of how lawless a country we are, the sheer lawlessness in this country. We can all officially say that Ghana is a lawless country. And okay. Not lawless exactly, because as for laws there, we have plenty. You get me? So it's it's still a lawless jungle, like chaotic everything bazaar. Because if you can't enforce the laws that you have, then it's just as good as a lawless country. You understand me? Someone once said, a law without enforcement is an advice. I'm sure you know who said that, right? The General Mosquito, who is now Chairman General. Yeah, he said that, if you know what I'm talking about. So why do I say so? First of all, this 2-year rental thing is against the law. Instead of enforcing the law so that tenants pay like 6 months or 1 year maximum, right? Instead of enforcing the law, the government wants to help the victims of the perpetrators to survive the abuse of the perpetrators by taking on the burden of the victims, so that the victim can now be engaging the government as though it is the landlord or the landlady. The rent thing government wants to do, I encourage you to try it. But to me, to my encouragement, ibinya. the whole thing be nya, it be bogus. Take it from me. Dr. Kwabena Bamoya, my guy, what's up? You are the same man who said, and a good for Wayre is unprecedented, is free Hinkosi, fuel prices will reduce. Guy, Kasa rapaholic. Hey!
Let's do something that the textbooks don't teach you. Let's do something that is out of the box. And this is why we said gold for oil. And we quickly looked at this and we negotiated with the suppliers of oil who were very, very excited and happy to receive gold in payment. And if that should happen, we are going to save a lot of foreign exchange and reduce the pressure on our currency.
Well, so the gold for Waireno, the impact it has had on us is that fuel prices have begun going up again. Guys, clap for Dr. Baumia. Man, like, yo.
On the morning of February 1, 2023, consumers of petroleum products witnessed an increase in prices. Prices of the product saw a marginal increase in the first pricing window in January 2023. Currently, a liter of petrol and diesel